Pokémon, the trainer begins as a bounty hunter. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, Nubby Badge. I got it. Communication with Zyada Gang. Thank you. Tetsuya also simply thanked Zyada Gang and then left. Zyada Gang did not stop him and narrowed his eyes to watch Tetsuya leave. Anyway, he must need to rest. As long as he is still in Nibby City, Zyada Gang will make sure that he knows where he is. But this is not the most urgent matter. Zyada Gang looked at the time. Oh no, dinner time is coming, and I haven't prepared dinner for my brothers and sisters yet. Zyada Gang hurriedly ran away and overtook Tetsuya from behind. Tetsuya heard the sound of Zyada Gang running frantically and then saw Zyada Gang's figure passing by him. He looked at Zyada Gang's back in astonishment. Is there something urgent? He didn't think much about it. After all, other people's affairs have nothing to do with him. Tetsuya walked straight to the front desk. He walked to the front desk and handed his ID to the service staff. The front desk confirmed it and handed the Nubby badge and ID to Tetsuya together. Congratulations, Trainer Tetsuya Tamaki. This is the badge proof of your victory. Tetsuya was also very excited when he looked at the diamond-shaped Nubby badge made of rock. Although he had prepared for this, he was still very excited to get the badge for the first time. He flicked the badge into the air like a coin, caught it with his hand, thanked the front desk, and left. The waitress at the front desk looked at Tetsuya's handsome face and movements, and was a little dazed for a moment. He walked out of the Nubby gym, and carefully put the Nubby badge into the badge box that had been prepared long ago. Although there was still a record on the computer that it was lost, no normal trainer would lose his badge, because it represents the result of his and the Pokemon's efforts. Nubby badge. I got it. Tetsuya walked on the road in Nubby City, shouting happily in his heart. If he hadn't felt a little ashamed, he would have wanted to cheer directly, because he was 40 years old in his two lives. He restrained his excitement for getting the badge for the first time, and quickened his pace towards the Pokémon Center. After all, although the damage to the brute was not much in the battle, the physical consumption was still very large due to the use of the acceleration characteristics. Miss Joy needs to help the brute recover. After a day of exercise and the mental exhaustion from the battle, Zaya was a little hungry and needed to go back for dinner. Zaya used his high-class treatment to give the strong chicken to Miss Joy to recover quickly, and then took the two Pokémon to the restaurant to start eating. While eating, suddenly a black hand patted Zaya's shoulder from behind. He turned his head in confusion. You have to know that he doesn't know anyone in Nibby City who would greet him. Hello, Trainer Zaya. The squinting eyes and holding the plate greeted him. It was Zyada Gang. Oh, it's Trainer Zyada Gang. Hello, hello. Zaya greeted with difficulty. After all, handling interpersonal relationships is a new thing for him. Haha, do you mind if I sit here with you? Zyada Gang said with a smile. Of course not. Please sit down. Zaya made a gesture of please feel free. Zyada Gang put down the plate and sat opposite Zaya. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Zyada Gang, and I'm the son of the Nubby gym leader. I'm 16 this year, the same age as you. You can just call me Zyada Gang. You don't mind if I call you Zay? Zyada Gang took over the conversation naturally while eating. Of course I don't mind. Zay replied stiffly while eating. Aren't you surprised? I'm the son of the gym leader. Zyada Gang was very surprised. No. Zay took out a gym introduction and turned to the middle part. There's your photo and name on it, and there's an introduction. Oh haha, really? Zyada Gang smiled awkwardly as he looked at himself in the introduction. So Zyada Gang, what do you want to talk to me about? Zay felt that it would be better for him to be more direct. This feeling was too uncomfortable. He hadn't made many friends in the past 10 years since he came to this world. He was a little bit bad at chatting. It was like a social dead scene. Ahaha, it's nothing. Zyada Gang was a little surprised at Zay's directness, but he also spoke very naturally. I mainly want to exchange ideas with you on how to train Pokémon. After all, it's rare to see a trainer as good as you. Your braggart is very well trained. Brock took a bite of his meal and paused. I observed that your braggart's feathers are lush and smooth, revealing a luster, which shows that you usually take good care of it. And based on the battle, I roughly calculated that your braggart's speed, muscle development, fire energy, etc. are much stronger than those of its peers. The most intuitive thing is the development of your braggart's calf muscles. Although there is no instrument test, it can be seen that it is at least 1.4 times that of its peers. And all the skill proficiency is very high, and each skill is perfectly connected. I'm very interested in your training method. Your braggart looks like it is only about 3 or 4 months old, but it has already evolved into the second stage. In addition, your braggart, Zaya looked at Brock, who was talking endlessly, and was a little dazed. Looking at Zaya's appearance, Brock also felt that he had lost his composure and apologized quickly. Sorry, my goal is to become an excellent breeder, so I can't help but talk about these things. ZHE also waved his hand. It's okay, Zaya gang, your breeding ability is really strong. You can see so much just by the naked eye. It's nothing, it's mainly because I'm careful. Zaya gang touched the back of his head and felt a little embarrassed. No, it's really amazing. Ordinary people can't measure the data with their eyes. You are too modest. ZHE also praised wildly. No, it's really average. Zaya gang waved his hands wildly and modestly. After several rounds of back and forth, the two looked at each other and laughed. Ha, are we exaggerating a little too much? Zaya gang said to ZHE with a smile. It's really a bit exaggerated. Ha. ZHE was also very happy. If you don't mind, we can share the experience of breeding Pokémon together. The main direction of my breeding for the strong chicken is still fighting based, with fire based as an auxiliary. Maybe I will consider developing both systems together later. Before Zaya gang could reply, ZHE shared his experience of breeding Pokémon with Zaya gang. In the early stage, I mainly focused on improving the speed of the strong chicken. You can see that the strong chicken has a hidden characteristic of acceleration. In the early stage, it is basically impossible for the opponent to cope with it after a long time with the fighting skills. So it is better to strengthen the strong points to cover up the relatively weak skills in the medium and long distances. I mainly use the glittering grass, combined with the exotic powder, and supplemented with other materials, to enhance the speed of the strong chicken. The main principle is to use the glittering grass. Zaya gang took out a notebook to record, and put forward his own opinions from time to time. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for the monthly ticket. Whatever you want. PS. I'm really good at trying to add more chapters. Thank you bookfriend 202009012213321221 for the reward of 100 starting coins. Thank you Yulan for the reward of 100 starting coins. Chapter 27. Conversation between Zaya gang and Wunang. In fact, if we replace the exotic powder with Kingfeng grass, would it be better? If we use the exotic powder as an auxiliary material, Kingfeng grass can. No, in this case, although Kingfeng grass can more effectively stimulate the effect of the glitter grass, for the strong chicken. Have you considered using starlight grass? Although it is much more expensive, it is a variant of the glitter grass, and its efficacy is basically the same as that of the glitter grass, and if that's the case, it's not impossible, but the auxiliary material needs to be replaced with. What about the star mushroom? The two people began to discuss enthusiastically. Of course, most of the time, Zay was talking, and Zaya gang was listening. After all, Zay is a person with zero, and he is a learning genius himself. It is not particularly strange that he is better than Zaya gang. However, the several contents proposed by Zaya gang also inspired Zay a lot. After all, Zero's plan is based on his understanding of the material. But the characteristics of the materials on the surface are not all, and some special materials and characteristics are not public. Over the years, Zay has only figured out some of the content through learning and research. As the descendant of the gym owner and the future heir of the gym, Zaya gang is much ahead of Tetsuya in terms of knowledge reserves in this area. Zaya gang proposed many materials or characteristics that Tetsuya didn't know, which can effectively further improve Tetsuya's efficiency in resource utilization. The two talked non-stop for 3 hours until everyone in the restaurant was almost gone, and then they reacted. Hahaha, you are really amazing, Tetsuya. You have such a clear understanding of the reactions between various materials. And the formula of your reaction potion is simply perfect, but it's a pity that it only applies to your elves, and can't be universal. Xayanagang praised. Actually, there is still a lot I don't know. Tetsuya shook his head. It's getting late. I'll go back first. Add a friend. I'm free tomorrow. Let's discuss it again. Xayanagang called up the interface of the Elf Watch. Okay. Tetsuya readily agreed. After adding each other as friends through the friend function of the Elf Watch, the two said goodbye and left. Xayanagang returned home, and Wuneng sat on the sofa looking at the report of his subordinates. Does Kintaro have diarrhea? Have you changed his diaper? Is Bunter's cold better? Did he take his medicine? Did Yuzi finish her homework today? Did you check it? Seeing his father working, Xayanagang kept nagging. Wuneng immediately felt overwhelmed and put down the report. I've done it. I've done it all. Kintaro was very well behaved today. There's no problem. Bunter also took his medicine on time. Yuzi is still writing. You can check her homework later. Oh, by the way, what did you do when you went out tonight? Wuneng changed the subject calmly. I met an interesting trainer in the gym battle today. He was born an orphan and is the same age as me. According to the data, he has a Pidgeot. The Joai family estimates that it has the potential to be a king, and its current energy is probably in the middle of the elite. The potential of the newly captured strong chicken is unknown, but it has the acceleration characteristic. According to the family's records, it is estimated to be at least a king, and maybe a semi-champion. In terms of strength, it is very good. Today, I used the Rumblestone and Diglett in the number 3 breeding room and he defeated 2 of them. The source of funds is the Firestone and Bounty missions. Overall, there is no problem, so I went to get to know him. Well, it sounds like a lucky guy. Wuneng picked up the report again and read it. There are not a few cases where civilian trainers accidentally get a high quality Pokémon, but not many of them become successful in the end. The reason is that a relatively powerful Pokémon cannot play a decisive role in the battle, and civilian trainers do not have so many resources and channels to cultivate and obtain other high quality Pokémon. Even the lucky ones like ZHE who have obtained 2 kings in a row have not been unheard of. Chairman Damalanki also has a contract with the legendary beast, and he was also born a civilian. It can only be said that ZHE has the potential to be worth investing in. Xiaogang did not find Wuneng's reaction strange. After all, for the upper class of their alliance, 1 or 2 people like ZHE appearing every year is nothing. Unless they appear in large numbers, that is not realistic. They don't have so many high quality Pokémon, let alone civilians. Originally, I just wanted to have a chat and build a good relationship in advance, but later I found that this guy might really be a genius. Oh, Wuneng casually said. There is no problem with training. It's just a normal training method, but it's more effective than that of ordinary civilian trainers. At least for now, it's still a long way from the standard training configuration we set. Xiaogang said indifferently. But he is very strong in training. Very strong. Except for the information restrictions, I think he can directly obtain the title of training master. At this point, Xiaogang's emotions fluctuated. Wuneng raised his eyebrows and raised his head. He knows his eldest son very well and generally doesn't brag. Moreover, he has a great interest and talent in cultivating a master. He has just passed the 5th level examination of cultivating a master recently and is already an intermediate cultivator. But isn't the master cultivator a bit too much? You know, the best cultivator in recent years is Xiaoxu. She was also born a commoner, but she only passed the 9th level examination at the age of 21 last year. There are 10 levels of examinations for cultivating a master, which is already a very high level. Even for such a genius, it is estimated within the alliance that Xiaoxu will not be able to break through the 10th level to become a master cultivator until she is 30 years old, which is already the 3rd youngest achievement in the history of the alliance. If I'm not mistaken, this they should be less than 17 years old. Can he become a master cultivator? Xiaogang also saw his father's eyes and knew what his father was wondering. It doesn't mean that he can become a master cultivator now. It will take at least 5 years to make up for the knowledge gap. But for the energy reaction between various materials and the configuration of potions, as well as the design of individual elves, I personally think he can be called a master. What Xiaogang didn't know was that Zay's learning talent was more terrible than he thought. But this was enough to arouse Wu Neng's interest and attention. After all, there are many breeders, but not many can obtain the title of breeding master. Breeders of this level are required to be able to give targeted breeding plans for any Pokémon. The entire plan is in line with the development of the Pokémon at each stage, and can improve the Pokémon's strength at the fastest speed. Each breeding master is also a powerful trainer. There are only about 15 people in the Alliance who have the title of breeding master and are still alive. Every time these people are asked to customize a plan, even a wealthy Jamona like Wu Neng can't stand it. The key is that they don't want much money, and they require more rare and higher level breeding materials. They themselves are short of it, and after giving it to these breeding masters, they have no resources to breed Pokémon. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote. I ask for anything. PS. I woke up early in the morning and found that my wrist hurt terribly. I don't know what happened. I was planning to add one more chapter, but now I'll just go with the flow. There will be 2 chapters on Friday, and the second chapter will be at 5 PM. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, Wu Neng's Attention and the Competition System. If it is true as his son Xiaogang said, that this civilian trainer named Tamaki Tetsuya has this talent, then it is worth investing in. After all, making friends with a future training master will be of great benefit to the descendants of his family. Then what are you going to do? Wu Neng did not ask Xiaogang to follow his own method. After all, he would pass the throne to Xiaogang sooner or later, and he still needed training. I talked a lot with him today. I can see that he has concealed a lot of things, but it doesn't matter. His background determines that he must be thirsty for knowledge. I plan to talk to him directly tomorrow. Xiaogang took out an apron, put it on, and prepared to start cleaning the house. He didn't stop talking. He is a smart person. Although he doesn't seem to be very good at socializing, the meaning behind his words is also very accurate. When I revealed the information to him, his reaction was also normal, and he didn't mean to resist. The investment potential is great. I will tell the gym about the specific evaluation when I come back. They will investigate and give a report. Well, okay, you will be responsible for it at that time. This will also be your first investment target. Wu Neng looked at the report and felt that it would be better to let Xiaogang decide for himself. As for revealing some information, it is not a big deal at all. Yes, I know. Xiaogang paused while mopping the floor, but soon continued. Dad, lift your feet up. Don't sit here and read it. You hold the report upside down. Don't pretend. Go upstairs to see your brothers and sisters. You don't care about them all day long. You. Listening to his son's nagging, Wu Neng hurried upstairs with the report. His son is good in everything except this one. He is too nagging. Wu Neng walked on the stairs, and his eyes narrowed like Xiaogang's. Is it Tetsuya Tamaki? It sounds like he has good potential and is interesting. Tetsuya, who returned to the room of the Pokémon Center to rest, was completely unaware of the conversation between the father and son. After taking a shower and sitting on the sofa, Tetsuya began to think about the communication with Xiaogang today. From Tetsuya's hints, Xiaogang did not know a guy named Xiaozi, at least not yet. Tetsuya was not disappointed. He mainly wanted to confirm it. After all, it was his childhood memory in his previous life. In such a real world, ZHE didn't find it strange that Xiaozi didn't exist. After all, according to his understanding, this world is really different from what is shown in the anime. This is true in all aspects. Especially in the tournament competition. It is outrageous that Xiaozi, who just debuted, can make it to the quarterfinals. But it seems not impossible. ZHE touched his chin and thought. Although he had not planned to participate in the tournament before, he didn't have the strength, not to mention that he was busy making money and studying. But the general situation is still understood. This World League Conference is divided into a 2-year competition system and an unlimited competition system. The League Conference usually refers to the latter, and the videos ZHE watched are all the latter. No wonder I said how these contestants are too strong. Not at all like what I saw in my previous life. This was what ZHE thought when he first knew about this. The so-called 2-year competition system is aimed at novice trainers who have just started. Moreover, the main competition and the top 4 of the tournament required for the trainer level certification also refer to the main competition and the top 4 of the unlimited competition, not the 2-year competition system. The specific restrictions are that trainers who are over 16 years old and under 18 years old can register to use their own Pokémons that have been captured and cultivated for no more than 2 years to participate in the competition. The registration method is the same as obtaining 8 badges. Basically, the strength of the player's Pokémons is ordinary, with a few elites and a large number of novice levels. The unlimited competition system is different. There is no time limit. The players participating in the main competition are basically elite level trainers and quasi-king level trainers. Only after reaching the king level will they switch to participate in the king challenge. Ordinary level trainers can't even pass the preliminaries. However, there are very few trainers participating in the 2-year competition system. It seems that there are only 2 over 300 every year. Basically, civilian trainers participate to fulfill their dreams. After all, for them, ordinary trainers are already their limit. Entering the unlimited competition system can only be a preliminaries. There is no meaning. If you get a better ranking in the 2-year competition system, you can brag to your descendants. Very few 2nd generation and 3rd generation will go to play, and the top 8 are generally swept by these people. Compared with the unlimited competition system, the 2-year competition system is privately called baby competition. From this name, we can see how much the trainers disdain the 2-year competition system. It is said that the league is working on revising this issue and trying to change the competition system of the conference. After all, the current 2-year competition system seems to have no meaning. But it cannot be cancelled directly, otherwise the novice trainers will have no experience at the beginning. ZHE is not very clear about how it will be changed. It may be the same as in the animation in the previous life, but it is estimated that it has nothing to do with him. After all, in order to find a backer to obtain resources, ZHE must show his strength in the unlimited competition. The 2-year competition system has no reference value and significance at all. In previous years, there were even people who took the king level Pokémon to participate in the 2-year competition system and shamelessly said that they had cultivated it for 2 years. But the time displayed for the capture was really less than 2 years, so he could only participate in the competition. In the end, beating those people was really like beating a baby. Later, the league found out that this guy was a strong 2nd generation, and the king level Pokémon was indeed his, but it was more than 2 years. That Pokémon was the offspring of his father's semi-champion Pokémon. He grew up with him since childhood. It took him 16 years to cultivate the Pokémon into a Pokéball. By the time of the competition, it took just over a year to capture it, which met the standard. It's not that no one has thought about it. The key is that you don't have to say whether you have such a Pokémon. If you don't capture it, you will have nowhere to cry if someone defeats you and captures it with a Pokéball. After all, if you don't put it into a Pokéball, everyone can capture it, even if it is a wild Pokémon. But that guy didn't go out of the house for the first 16 years and cultivated his only Pokémon at home. It wasn't until he was 16 years old and officially started traveling that he captured the Pokémon. This can be considered as taking advantage of a loophole. It is said that the guy's final result was quite miserable, but with a powerful father to protect him, it must not be too exaggerated. As for using your father's Pokémon to participate in the competition, or capturing a powerful Pokémon to participate in the competition, not to mention whether your father will beat you to death when you bring it up, civilian trainers don't have this condition. In the latter case, if you can capture powerful Pokémon, it means you are also very strong. Then why do you still participate in the 2-year system? Go to the unlimited system to show yourself. Pokémon that are defeated and captured by borrowing other people's Pokémon will not listen to the trainer's words. In the words of the game, the intimacy is below 10. It is impossible to command them at all. This situation is obvious at a glance and they will be disqualified. If there is really a protagonist, I can only say that I tried my best. I'll just force it. See if there are any bugs. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for the monthly ticket. I ask for everything. Hint. Chapter 29 Qualification Issues and Unexpected Gains. If there really is a protagonist, then either Xylz will start with a 2-year system and then switch to an unlimited system, or the league will change the system in the future and it will not be like it is now. ZHE also thought about it. It is probably because Xylz is still very young. After all, Professor Oak at that time often appeared on TV to give lectures, and he did not look that old. Xiaogang heard what he meant, and it was the first time to participate in the gym battle today, and he was far from mature. ZHE also shook his head, thinking too much. For ZHE, his goal is to work hard to have a good performance in the unlimited system of the Chengdu conference 2 years later. Now I still have to think about the attitude of the newbie gym. There should be no problem with my performance today. The overall performance should be very similar to that of a civilian trainer, but he is extremely talented in breeding, and he is lucky. ZHE closed his eyes and thought about the conversation tonight. As long as he does not expose the ability of Zero to detect potential, no matter how strong he is in breeding, it will only be considered as his talent. There will not be too much danger, and the benefits far outweigh the threats. The biggest gain today is that I know that talent can be changed after birth. ZHE said to himself. Yes, when they were talking at night, I don't know whether Xiaogang did it on purpose or for some other reason, but he accidentally revealed this. Although ZHE had thought about it before, no one has ever confirmed it, and ZHE has always been speculating about it. After all, the legend of Ho-Oh can transform the 3 EV's evolutionary forms into 3 legendary beasts and revive them, so it is not unimaginable that some extremely rare treasures or some means can improve talent. But Xiaogang only helped ZHE to confirm this guess, and did not reveal the specific method. ZHE can fully imagine the difficulty of this method. After all, if it was simple, these families would not still suffer from not having high quality Pokémon to cultivate. But it's okay if it's available. Zero can completely analyze that method and materials and use something else instead. Although the effect is definitely not as good as the original, it's still much better. ZHE also thought it's impossible for every Pokémon to be far superior to its peers when it hatches from an egg. I must capture some ordinary Pokémon to cover up the truth. Before, I was worried that it would be a drag in the future and cause a waste of resources because I couldn't continue to cultivate it. Now it seems that I can choose a useful Pokémon with average qualifications and then slowly improve its qualifications in this way in the future. Although the cost will be much higher than before, it is inevitable in the early stage. As for catching a Pokémon at random for a transition and then putting it aside and releasing it, in fact, I thought about this method at the beginning, but I couldn't convince myself later. Indeed, even in this world, many people choose to do this. Because the Pokémon with low qualifications will have no way to keep up with their own pace in the end, either put them in the base, opened by the breeder and leave them alone after paying the fee, or just release the Pokémon back to nature and cultivate a Pokémon with high qualifications again. But as they cultivated and got along with several Pokémon one after another, he gradually gave up this idea. Maybe because they were all hatched from eggs, and because he was an orphan in this life, Zay has always regarded the elves as his family and companions. It is hard for Zay to imagine that he would release the elves that he has cultivated for 2 or 3 years or even longer, or ignore them. Therefore, Zay is very cautious when choosing elves. With Xiaogang's confirmation of this news today, he was relieved. This means that there is no need to worry about these problems. As long as there is a way, Zay is confident that Zero can be optimized. The most worrying thing is that there is no way. Zero can't deduce it out of thin air. After all, the improvement of qualifications is essentially an evolution, and Zero's ability is not that strong yet. So I can start preparing for the third elf from now on. Zay thought, a little bored while browsing the forum. I'm still short of funds for the time being. It seems that I have to hurry up and do some bounty tasks. Thinking back to the balance in his bank card, he felt a little sad. Suddenly, he felt that he was so far away from the third elf. Zay sighed that it was really not easy to make some money these days. After studying today's plan, he fell asleep on the bed. After all, today's consumption is quite large. In the evening, when chatting with Zyadagang, I have been trying to show some of my abilities, while pretending to conceal some abilities that can be known. I can't reveal my potential to identify Pokémon eggs, and I have to find ways to get information from Zyadagang. This is simply too difficult, a hell on earth. ZHE also sighed. A good young man was forced by life to become the person he disliked the most when he was a child. No words were spoken all night. In the early morning, ZHE, who had finished his morning exercise, walked out of the evergreen forest with 2 Pokémons. He was shaking a Pokéball in his hand while walking. I'm really lucky. I met a Pichu with such an interesting chest pattern, and it hasn't evolved yet. ZHE was quite happy. He felt that his luck had improved a lot since he went out to travel. Don't get me wrong, ZHE didn't want to cultivate a Pikachu like Pikachu. After all, that's unrealistic. Moreover, even Raichu is not a particularly powerful Pokémon, and it still needs a Thunderstone to evolve, which is not worth it at all. The key is that Pokémons like Pichu are extremely cute and are deeply loved by ladies. The black hair on the chest of the one just captured is different from the usual ones. The black hair on the chest of a normal Pichu is jagged and well arranged, but the black hair on the chest of this one is actually a heart shape that looks like an upside down heart. You should know that the Pikachu tribe appears in groups in the evergreen forest, and they are basically a large family. The evolution of Pichu only requires a certain degree of intimacy and a little level increase. How can intimacy be improved faster than family affection? It is easy for young elves to increase their levels. This leads to the fact that Pichu, which was born not long ago, quickly evolved into Pikachu under the care of his parents and aunts. You basically don't see Pichu appearing in the Pikachu tribe. This kind of individual difference is extremely rare. Once it evolves into Pikachu, it basically looks exactly the same. Even if the egg is hatched, it cannot guarantee that the hair of this Pichu will grow more special. Even if it is trimmed, it will return to its original state after a while. And the ladies like to keep this kind of special elf as a pet. Bring it with you when you go out for a tea party. It is not only cute, but also very face saving. So a normal Pichu might be only slightly more expensive in the black market, but the price of a special Pichu like this is much higher. Wow, I just needed money, and then something came to my door. I'm afraid I'm not the protagonist. Zay thought happily as he walked on the road. Please invest, please collect, please recommend, please vote for the monthly ticket. I want anything. Thanks to you Lan for the 100 starting coins. PS. There will be 3 updates today and tomorrow, 1 chapter each at 10, 17, and 21 o'clock. There seems to be a test push tomorrow. I will add another update to celebrate when the collection exceeds 1000. According to the outline, this plot will end next Monday, so let me explain it. I'm also very confused when writing this paragraph, but I still feel that I have to explain these things clearly. Chapter 30 Black Market Purchase Point and meeting Zyadagang again. No matter who gets such a good unexpected gain when training in the morning, he will be as happy as Zaya, which is equivalent to picking up money on the road. As for what you said about Pichu evolving, there is also a prop called the Stone of Invariance in this world, which is relatively useless, that is, to prevent the elves from evolving to the next stage. Generally speaking, for this kind of pet elves, they will carry the Stone of Invariance, so that they will not evolve. The key is that, although the Stone of Invariance is useless, it is not rare, and is still relatively expensive. In addition, Pichu will suddenly discharge electricity because of excitement, and you need to find a special breeder to educate it. Otherwise, it is not fun to discharge electricity. Although it doesn't hurt, it's embarrassing and embarrassing. This is another huge expense. It can only be said that the hobbies of those ladies are indeed, well, expensive. But what does this have to do with Zaya? He just needs to know that the Pichu he just caught can bring him about 5 million income. Today, the common people are really happy. Zaya hummed a little song while walking on the road. Arriving at a small wooden house on the outskirts of Nabi City, he took out a mask from his bag to cover his face. Following the code, he tapped the ground with his feet in an orderly manner. After a while, a secret compartment on the ground was opened, and they walked straight in. Below was a narrow passage, with only a little light above for people to see the road clearly. After walking for a while, he reached the end, and suddenly it became a little clear. In front of him was an underground hall, with about a dozen close small rooms scattered in the middle, surrounded by dark passages, just like the ones they had just walked out of. A masked man in black clothes walked up and guided Zay to a small room. Pushing open the door, there was another masked man in black sitting at the table. Zay was also very speechless. Is this a nesting doll? But he also pretended to be very cold, took out the Pokeball with Pichu in it, and put it on the table. The man in black said nothing, let Pichu out, and observed it for a while. Pichu also looked confused, and was taken back by the man in black, before he could react. 480W. The black-clad man's voice sounded strange, a bit like the sound of electricity. They didn't care, and nodded to indicate that it was okay. After all, although it was still a little short of the psychological price of 500W, it would definitely be lower if it was sold directly to this place. Seeing that they agreed, the black-clad man took out an anonymous card, operated it for a while, and handed it to him. After confirming through his watch that it was indeed an amount of 480W, they turned around and left. Walking out of the room, a black-clad man who was not sure if he was the same one as before came up and motioned to go with him. Zay followed behind him and walked out of another dark passage. An identical return journey led to another wooden house that looked similar. Zay took off his mask and walked out of the wooden house to see that his position was far away from where he was just now. Wow, everyone is wearing black clothes and masks. This black market purchasing point is really something. This kind of semi-random entrance and exit setting is good. Yes, the place he just went to is the purchasing point of the black market. Although there is only one black market in a region, the black market purchasing points are spread all over every city, and there are even many purchasing points in a city. To put it simply, people can sell their harvests to the black market receiving point, but the price will definitely be cheaper than selling them at the black market in Changpon City. The main advantage is convenience. After all, it takes time to travel and set up a stall. If you want to buy Pokémon or Pokémon eggs, I'm sorry, you have to go to the black market. The black market purchasing point only purchases and does not sell. As for worrying about bumping into others, it basically won't happen. After all, there are people watching the black market between each channel. Although ZHE doesn't know how to avoid it specifically, the black market has its own set of rules, otherwise it wouldn't have survived for so long. Back to the Pokémon Center, he gave the Pokeballs of Strong Chicken and Pidgeot to Miss Joy for recovery. ZHE also went to the Pokémon restaurant to prepare for breakfast. He was hungry after exercising early in the morning. Just sat down and didn't eat much. Just like last night, a black hand was on Tetsua's shoulder. Tetsua was silent for a moment, turned around, and it was indeed Zyanagang, holding a sandwich and milk in his hand. Good morning, Tetsuya. Zyanagang greeted Tetsuya and sat down opposite Tetsuya. Tetsuya looked at Zyanagang speechlessly. You are the heir of the gym, and you come to the Pokémon Center to eat breakfast every day, as if you live here. What a joke. Zyanagang seemed to not see Tetsuya's eyes, and ate the sandwich naturally. There was silence at the table for a while. Both sides didn't know how to start. I came to you today for something serious. It was Zyanagang who broke the awkward situation first. Tetsuya motioned Zyanagang to continue. I told you yesterday that I'm the future heir of the Nabi gym, and yesterday was also my first time to review the gym battle. Zyanagang paused here and looked at Tetsuya. After talking to you last night, I felt that you were very capable. I went back and told my father about it, and I evaluated and reported on you. ZHE also laughed. Oh. So what exactly is in my report? Zyanagang was slightly relieved when he saw that ZHE was not angry. Although in this world, it is very common for some families to invest in talented civilian trainers. Many civilian trainers are also very happy to accept this. After all, if there is no funding, it is difficult for them to become strong, no matter how high their own trainer talent or other talents are. It is nothing more than needing help and returning favors in the future. After becoming stronger, these are not big problems, but just normal exchanges of interests. There will be no situation where support and contribution are not comparable. However, there are still many people in this world who think that they can succeed on their own, and it is not good for them to owe favors in the future, or they feel that they have lost their freedom, so they are not willing to accept investment. Even though Xiao Gang thinks that ZHE is not such a person, because ZHE also has a clear understanding of his own abilities and future, which can be known from yesterday's conversation. It is also written very clearly in the report that the other party accepted the initial investment from the Joai family, but it is also possible that ZHE does not want to accept the investment from the Nabijim. So Xiao Gang was a little worried at first. After all, he was the first to propose the idea of investing in Zay, and it was also the first investment in a person that his father asked him to make. Zay's current reaction made him feel relieved. At least Zay did not reject him as the representative of the Nabijim to talk to him about this matter. Xiao Gang sorted out his thoughts, combined with the report and evaluation given to him by the gym staff, and continued to talk. Please invest, please add to your collection, please recommend, please vote for me. I ask for anything. P.S. I originally set up the black market to use the large-scale random transfer of psychic type Pokémon, which seemed to be more high-end. Later, I thought about it and decided to forget it in order to ensure the rarity of psychic type Pokémon and teleportation. Chapter 31 Harmonious Conversation and heading to Mount Moon. Point. So that's about it. If you think it's okay, you can confirm it. After a detailed explanation, Xiao Gang's mouth was dry, and he drank half a bottle of milk to recover. Xiao Gang, this is not only your first time to participate in a gym battle, but also your first time to discuss an investment like mine. They smiled and didn't answer Xiao Gang's words, but asked about other things. Ahaha, it's true. Xiao Gang touched his head. Is it so obvious? How should I put it? They put down the tableau. To be honest, this is also the first time I have discussed such a thing. Although I felt that Miss Joy and the others also gave me this kind of investment before, it was very direct to upgrade the treatment. I haven't communicated like this, but I always feel that it's not right for you to be so direct. Normally, shouldn't I propose conditions, you consider, reject, change conditions, and then reach a consensus with each other? It's not impossible. Then what I just said is invalid, and you say it again. No need. I think it's very reasonable and very appropriate. I have no objection. Zay waved his hand quickly. The two looked at each other and laughed. Xiao Gang continued. It's a business matter. Basically, it's fine to make a verbal agreement. I'll have someone send the specific details to your watch later. You can just take a look. What about the personal matter? ZHE looked at Xiao Gang. The personal matter is that I want to ask you to do me a favor and make a training plan for my Geodude. Of course, I will pay for it. Xiao Gang narrowed his eyes, making it hard to guess what he was thinking. No problem, but you have to wait a few days. ZHE agreed readily. It's not urgent. You can do your own things first. After 5 days, you can go directly to the front desk of the Nibe Gym and ask for me. Okay, got it. ZHE looked at his watch. Then I have something else to do. I'll leave first. Well, bye. Bye. Xiao Gang still looked at ZHE with narrowed eyes and watched ZHE go away. He also stood up slowly, recalling the conversation with his father this morning. So you decided to let him be responsible for the training of your Geodude? Wu Neng's face showed no expression. Yes. Are you sure? Are you sure? Wu Neng was silent for a while. Then do it. You are still young. Bron squinted his eyes. Yes, he was young and could take a gamble. His intuition told Bron that what Tetsuya showed was definitely not all. If he succeeded, he would become a strong man smoothly and quickly, just like his father did. As for failure, it would only be a Pokémon and some time. He could afford it. I hope he won't let me down, thought Bron, and left the Pokémon Center. Tetsuya took his Pokémon back from Joey and kept thinking on his way to the bounty hunter center. Why did Bron ask me to make a training plan for his Geodude for no reason? A test? No, if it was a test, I could just find a gym Pokémon and let me do it. I could see the effect. If it wasn't a test, then wasn't this condition too good? Tetsuya was a little confused. As for the possibility that he couldn't find someone to make a plan, normal people wouldn't think so. The son of a gym owner, the future heir of a gym, and a very talented breeder himself, you said he couldn't find someone to make a plan for his Pokémon? Even if he couldn't hire a training master, he could hire others easily. Besides, Ziogang could handle the training plan for Geodude at the beginning. He couldn't figure it out. He really couldn't figure it out. He didn't understand the meaning of Ziogang's action until he walked into the hunter center and started to prepare to accept the mission. If he couldn't figure it out, he would stop thinking about it. He was a civilian, and there was nothing worth calculating for others. He didn't expose the qualifications of the strong chicken and zero. It's not a big deal. It seems that Ziogang's own idea. Let's take the missions and make money first. ZHE also swiped the screen, scanning several missions in a row, and randomly selected a sea level mission, and was about to leave. The number of sea level missions that can be accepted is 2. Isn't he a sea level bounty hunter? How can he accept 3 missions of the same level? He looked at the background and saw a few words behind his personal information. Sea level, authority increased by 1 level. Is this another benefit of the high level treatment? It's really good. ZHE also sighed. The Joey family really involves all aspects, and the treatment improvement is really awesome. He took on the 2 good C rank missions that he had deleted and headed towards Mount Tsukimi. Mount Tsukimi is the place where the meteor fell. It is said that there are Pidgeots living in it. The internal structure is extremely complicated due to the long-term mining and the use of digging skills of various Pokémons. Trainers often get lost in it. Even so, there are still a large number of trainers who continue to explore the interior for the moonstone, fossils, and a wide variety of Pokémon such as Pidgeot, Nidorino, etc. They walked in the dark and humid cave with a flashlight. This was his 3rd hour in Mount Tsukimi, and he had long been away from the route given by the official league. He asked Strong Chicken to deal with a small Geodude that he accidentally stepped on. This Pokémon is made of rocks all over, and its materials are not valuable at all. But it likes to lie in the cave, and in the dark, it stepped on it, as if it were an ordinary rock. It seems that he has stepped on 7 or 8 of them along the way, they calculated boringly. But there shouldn't be any more down there. Turning on the environment monitoring function of the expedition suit, the humidity at this time is not what Geodude likes. But he is probably very close to his target. He took out the drone from his backpack and carefully controlled it to fly deeper. The night vision camera kept scanning every corner, and the man and the pet were hanging far behind. Soon, as the distance deepened, the drone scanned the target. Let the drone automatically attach to the rock wall above, and Tetsuya commanded the Strong Chicken to keep getting closer. Use the minimum power of the spray fire towards the 2 paras. Don't burn them directly to ashes. Strong Chicken nodded and carefully sprayed a mouthful of fire into the corner of the cave. The firelight illuminated the dim and humid cave, and the roots of a big tree appeared in the corner. 2 paras and a paris were surrounding and sucking the roots. This was exactly the goal of this mission. The 2 paras lost their combat ability directly after being hit by the flames. Not bad. We met the targets of 2 tasks together for the first time. I thought I couldn't find Paris at first. ZHE said that his luck had really improved recently, and he turned on the gas mask of his expedition suit. He commanded, don't get close to that Paris. Use the sound to provoke it first, so that it releases spores. Strong Chicken nodded and shouted, causing Paris to shudder and step back a few steps. Then Paris seemed to be completely enraged, and the mushrooms on its back sprayed spores crazily. Looking at the flying spores, ZHE was a little overwhelmed for a while. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for the monthly ticket. I want everything! Exclamation mark. Thanks to bookfriend 20210602074340545 for the reward of 100 starting coins. Thanks to Dandon's love injury for the reward of 500 starting coins. The third elf will be here soon, you can guess. The fourth elf may have to wait for the chapter to be put on the shelves. Chapter 30 to encounter with the Tyrannosaurus Rex. He was so busy collecting materials for the mission that he forgot that Strong Chicken had no way to deal with the opponent without destroying the spores. This place was relatively narrow, and it was estimated that the wings of the eagle could not be opened, let alone fanning. He called Strong Chicken back to prevent poisoning, and Zaya quickly thought of a way. He asked Strong Chicken to shoot the least powerful sparks at the back of Paris to avoid hurting it and force it to stop moving. He controlled the drone to fly down and disassembled its fan system. After connecting it to the expedition suit, the small fan that was originally used to support the movement suddenly became more powerful. He blew the fan at the slowly flying spores, and the spores became slower and began to fall slowly. When Paris saw this, the little head of the mushroom didn't understand why it was like this. Under the coercion of Strong Chicken, he couldn't move, so he simply spread the poisonous spores crazily through the mushroom cap. Zaya kept fanning with the fan. The spores released by Paris were not endless. He was a machine. Sure enough, Plast stopped spreading the spores after a while. The entire elves seemed to lose their souls and fell on the ground. This thing can become a good medicinal material after decoction. The Strong Chicken's head, do it well. Just. Li Zuang Chicken patted his wings. Hands. We have enough Paris spores. 100g is more than enough, but we still need a lot of Paris mushrooms. Let's keep looking. After putting the harvest at the bottom of the backpack, the man in the pet continued to go deeper. They passed countless forks along the way. ZHE also recorded his way through the navigation system to avoid being unable to get out. Although for him, if it really doesn't work, he can find a place where he can see the sky and release Pidgeot to fly him out, but this method is not recommended unless it is absolutely necessary. After all, the altitude of Tsukumi Mountain is very high, even the Pallet Town can see it. Just in case, high altitude driving is still not recommended. While thinking about it, Strong Chicken solved a small rock that was stepped on without knowing what was good for it. Oh, I went the wrong direction again. ZHE also looked at the humidity decreasing, feeling a little helpless. In the cave, it was dark, and he had no idea where he was going. Paras likes to live in dark and humid places because there are tree roots for them to survive. He took a look at his location on the positioning system. He was on the west side of the outer layer of Mount Tsukumi, and there seemed to be an underground river nearby. After finding a reference, Zaya moved towards the direction of the underground river. Generally speaking, wild Pokémon often appear in such places because water is one of the fundamentals of survival. As he got closer to the river, the air gradually became fresher. The stalactites above the cave often gather water vapor, turning into small droplets and dripping down from the top. Strong Chicken shook his head irritably, and a drop of water just dripped on his head. Although the high temperature of the surface of the fire Pokémon quickly made its head dry, the feeling of water still made it very uncomfortable. When he could hear the sound of water flowing, Zaya still released the drone to observe the situation. The sound of the river surging echoed in the dark cave, and there was silence except for that. It seemed that no Pokémon came here to drink water at this time. He walked out of the cave in trance where he was carefully walked a few steps along the stone wall, and then turned and entered another stone cave that the drone had just detected. After walking along the road for a while, he soon found a clue. He squatted down and observed the traces of movement on the ground. There were about 5 of them crawling on 4 legs. It seemed that they were a group of relatively large Paras family. Judging from the depth of the traces, there should be no Parist. But it didn't matter if there were Paras, and Parist were completely defeated by fire spirits. The attributes of the 2 element of cordyceps and grass made them suffer 4 times the damage of the fire element. If their characteristics were dry skin, this multiple would have to be doubled. Following the traces left by Paras with Strong Chicken, he soon saw these little cuties. As expected, there were no Parist. Without ZHE's command, Strong Chicken consciously spit out 5 flames. How could these novice level or just ordinary level Paras withstand the attack of Strong Chicken? Even though Strong Chicken had restrained its power, under the huge talent difference and attribute restraint, the 5 Paras still fainted directly. picking small mushrooms with an indifferent look on his face. ZHE left without mercy after picking, leaving behind 5 fainted paras. He looked like a man who was leaving after finishing his work. 14. And I still need 3 paras, so I'm not in a hurry. They calculated ways to save time and effort. You can go find Sandsling first. If you're lucky, you can find the claws that have fallen off, and you don't need to fight. The 2 small mushrooms on the back of paras are good materials for nutrients before they evolve. The claws of Sandsling are auxiliary medicinal materials for a kind of potion. After being collected, the mushrooms and claws will grow back quickly after replenishment. Therefore, some trainers who have paras, Perist and Sandsling, make money from this. However, the market has always been in short supply, and there will still be many people who post tasks to buy. It is impossible for Zay to cultivate these Pokémon, so the best way is to take them from these Pokémon in the wild. Unlike the Paras family who like to live in dark and humid places, Sandsling likes to live in dry places, and the degenerate Sandsling is even more afraid of water, and usually stays away from water. Walking in the opposite direction of coming, starting to move away from the river, Zay randomly chose a cave and walked in. 5 minutes later, Zaya and Brachichia ran out in a panic. Why is there still a Tyrannosaurus Rex in this damn place? How can such a high-level Pokémon live in such an outer area? It's too unreasonable. Zaya complained crazily, but he didn't dare to slow down his pace at all. Brachichia followed behind, using his hands and feet to destroy the hole and let the gravel block the hole. Then he quickly followed the trainer and left. Only a loud noise could be heard from far behind the blocked hole. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote. I ask for anything. I will add an update at 2 PM, which is considered to celebrate the collection of more than 1,000 a day in advance. It's not easy. I'm desperately looking for reasons to add more updates. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 33 Misfortunes never come singly. Zay is now in the outer area of Eugene Mountain. The Pokémon living there are mainly beginners and ordinary level Pokémon, with very few elites. The closer you are to the inner area, the stronger the wild Pokémon are. Pokémon like Tyrannosaurus are extremely powerful even at the elite level. A normal rhino will evolve into Tyrannosaurus at level 40, depending on the individual differences. It looks like the Tyrannosaurus doesn't look like it has just evolved, which means it is at least level 45. Not to mention that Pidgeot can't be released in this small space. Even if Pidgeot is released, it will not be able to get any advantage in the hands of Tyrannosaurus under the condition of attribute restraint, even if Pidgeot has better qualifications. The fighting skills of the strong chicken are somewhat restrained, but in close combat, it can only be beaten. After all, the difference in height and weight is too big, plus the level suppression. It is no longer offset by the development brought by high qualifications. After running around for nearly 20 minutes, making sure that the movement of the Tyrannosaurus can no longer be heard, Zay finally relaxed a little, secretly thinking that it was bad luck. What bad luck? I can run into such a strong Tyrannosaurus Rex even in such a remote area. Fortunately, I used my drone to explore the road out of habit, otherwise I would have been killed if I had gone straight up. Thinking of his drone, that was discovered by the Tyrannosaurus Rex and smashed directly into pieces with a rockfall, Zay felt a pang of pain in his heart. Although this drone is not expensive, a mosquito is still meat. Although as long as the navigation system is still there, he can go to Devon Company to exchange it for a new one with the wreckage, but he dare not go back to collect the wreckage. He can only spend money to buy a new one. This drone is still necessary for exploring the road, otherwise if I had started the fight with my body just now, I would have been almost nothing but meat paste now. He looked at his position after escaping again. Fortunately, he paid a little attention when he was running just now and did not run deep into Eugene Mountain. Now his position is just a little bit to the outside. Zay found a fork in the road and started his mission journey again. Pop pop pop. At the exit of a cave in Eugene Mountain, a young man in ragged clothes ran out panting, with traces of dust all over his body. Following behind him was a slightly tired and injured strong chicken. Without even bothering to clean himself up, the man threw a luxurious ball. Pidgeot, take me away. A red light flashed, and Pidgeot appeared on the ground. The man fixed himself and took back the strong chicken, and then Pidgeot quickly flew towards Nibby City. Only a few elves that had just run out of the cave were left to watch him leave from afar. Don't go so high, go lower, a little lower. ZHE was a little panicked. Yes, the embarrassed man just now was our protagonist. He was frightened all the way to the entrance of Nibby City by Pidgeot, far away from the previous position, and ZHE let Pidgeot put him down. As soon as he landed, his feet were still a little weak. After all, working at high altitudes was a bit scary. If it wasn't for avoiding those elves, he would not have used this method to escape. After removing the fixed equipment of the expedition suit from Pidgeot, Zaya took Pidgeot back into the Pokeball. Patting the marks on his body, Zaya hurried to the Pokémon Center. He first handed the brew to Miss Joy to reply, and went back to his room to take a shower. The handsome boy reappeared in the mirror in front of him. Zaya exhaled a breath, and now he was completely relaxed. Thinking back to the situation in Eugene Mountain just now, he also sighed that he was really unlucky. I should be lucky to catch that Pichu. Why did I start to have bad luck this afternoon? Puzzled, Zaya lay on the bed, just wanting to have a good rest. After all, he just ran for more than an hour and almost ran himself to death. Back to the time, after getting rid of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. In the next hour, the man in the pet smoothly encountered 3 paras and a small tribe led by Sanshru. Brute easily solved them, and the 3 tasks were completed. But it was still early, just afternoon. ZHE just wanted to continue exploring for a while to see if he could get any unexpected gains with his good luck. After all, the Tyrannosaurus Rex had escaped, so it should be the boss in the outer area. Just be careful in other places. But unfortunately, an accident happened during this exploration. The area of Tsukumiyama is very large, and there are many types of elves. Under the attraction of the Moonstone, not only rare elves like Pippi survive, but also other elves are attracted. It is the elves like Nidoking and Nidoqueen who need Moonstone to evolve to the final form. Originally, it was not a big problem. After all, normal Nidoking and Nidoqueen would only exist in deeper places. Although Nidoran and Nidoran will evolve soon after passing the novice level, they need Moonstone to evolve into Nidoqueen and Nidoking, which can only appear in the deep of Tsukumiyama. Moonstone will not appear in places like the outer area. It is said that, because the place where the meteorite fell is in the deep of Tsukumiyama, the Moonstone is caused by the power of the meteorite, so there is no Moonstone in the outer area. Nidoqueen and Nidoking usually appear in pairs, so basically no one has ever seen these 2 Pokémon in the periphery. But ZHE also encountered them. Isn't it a coincidence? When he saw Nidoking and Nidoqueen being intimate in the cave he walked into, he was completely devastated. He turned around and ran with Brachydius. Nidoking and Nidoqueen reacted and went crazy, chasing him madly. As for the idea of letting Brachydius fight them, it can only be said to be very good, but it is purely courting death. Because the opponent does not challenge you one-on-one. I didn't react at first, but later I found that the 2 Pokémon were probably just over level 30, and Brachydius should be able to beat them 1-on-2. But the opponent called for help. Nidoking and Nidoqueen, who were over level 30, had a bunch of minions in the periphery. Although they were not elite, they could easily defeat an elephant. You can imagine a group of Zubat, Geodude, Magneton, and Sandshrew approaching you to kill you. In this case, turning back to fight back is a waste of time. Zay and Strong Chicken decisively started to run away. Fortunately, the terrain of Eugene Mountain is complicated, and these elves are generally not fast. The fast ones are also slowed down by their companions. Strong Chicken fights from time to time to delay their speed. Otherwise, ZHE also doubts that he will have to run for more than an hour, and he will run until he vomits blood. He pulled away and found a cave that he could get out of. That's what happened next. I don't know whether this is good luck or bad luck. After all, not to mention the Tyrannosaurus Rex, even if the 2 elves Nidoking and Nidoqueen are only elite qualifications, they are very valuable in the black market. Thinking of this, Zay took out the navigator and made a mark. A gentleman's revenge is never too late. Zay thought angrily, I will remember the revenge of today's pursuit. When Strong Chicken evolves, I will catch you directly for money. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote. I ask for everything. The next 2 updates will be at 5 PM and 9 PM. Chapter 34, Earning Money and Going to the Nabi Gym Again. After a short rest, ZHE felt that he was almost done, so he took the brute back and went to hand in the 3 tasks. After all, he still had to train Pokémon in the afternoon, so he couldn't slack off. The total reward for the task was 220,000. Not bad, plus the 4.8 million contributed by Pichu. He earned a full 5 million today. Sure enough, it was still a matter of strength, ZHE thought on the way to the Evergreen Forest for training. Putting aside the unexpected surprise of Pichu, according to today's efficiency and income, if he planned it well, he could earn nearly 700,000 yuan by doing the tasks normally for a whole day, which was equivalent to his income in the past month. So in the afternoon, when Pidgeot and Brute were working hard to complete the training goals in the Evergreen Forest, ZHE also planned the arrangements for the next 4 or 5 days. First, 4 hours of fixed training in the morning, from 6 to 10 o'clock, then go back to the Pokémon Center to eat and rest, and then take the task and set off at about 11 o'clock. It is expected to come back from Fujian Mountain or Evergreen Forest around 2 o'clock in the afternoon to rest, and then do another round of tasks. The second time I came back was probably around 5 in the evening. After dinner, I started regular training at the training ground of the Pokémon Center. At around 10 in the evening, I went back to my room to look at the information given by the Nabichum and then rested. ZHE also scribbled for a while and found that this was probably the limit. But if I choose to use Pidgeot to go back and forth, I should be able to save about half an hour between 2 rounds. Touching his chin, he was a little tempted. An extra half an hour can prevent the task from taking too long to disrupt the plan, and can also train more, or rest for a while. It seems to be a good choice. ZHE also felt that for the benefits brought by this precious half an hour, it seems that it is not a problem to control his fear a little. Anyway, sooner or later, he will have to fly back and forth, and it is better to experience it now than later. So from the next day, ZHE began to use Pidgeot as a tool pet, and started a life of making money from 4 points: Evergreen Forest, Moon Viewing Mountain, Pokémon Center, Bounty Hunter Center. Oh no, there is also a black market purchase point. After all, elite level Pokémon, even if they have no strengths, can be sold at a price. Although there are not many wild Pokémon that can reach the elite level, he encountered quite a few in 5 days, and he took them to the purchase point to sell. 5 days later, Zay, who had agreed to meet Xiaogang in the afternoon, rarely gave himself and the Pokémon a day off. Lying on the sofa in the room, he calculated his gains in the past few days. Not counting the first day, he completed a total of 12 C-level tasks in the next 4 days, earning 780,000 yuan, and 4 B-level tasks, earning 1 million yuan. In addition, he caught 4 elite-level Pokémon, and sold them for a total of 4.2 million yuan. In other words, he made a total of 11 million yuan in 5 days. Even if he spent a little 1 million yuan in these days, he still had a net income of 10 million yuan. Zay was a little confused for a moment. He earned nearly a quarter of the price of a Firestone. Thinking about it, it doesn't seem abnormal. This income is determined by many factors, and ordinary trainers can't do it. First, the high-level treatment at the Pokémon Center saved Zay a lot of queuing time, waiting time for treatment, and treatment costs. Without this treatment, his efficiency would be much lower and his expenses would increase. At the same time, the Bounty Hunter's task authority has been raised by 1 level. Otherwise, B-level tasks may not be affected. Before reaching B-level Bounty Hunter, you cannot accept 3 C-level tasks at the same time. My efficiency has to drop by more than half. After all, there are not so many B-level tasks, and it is impossible to accept them whenever you want. Secondly, although it seems that there is a lot of income, in fact, nearly half of it is the income from Pichu. Luck cannot be regarded as a normal situation. Thirdly, and most importantly, ZHE also has 0 to distinguish the level of wild Pokémon. This is actually very important. Ordinary trainers cannot accurately judge this point without instruments in the wild, so they will avoid direct encounters and battles with wild Pokémon, unless they are the target or they cannot be avoided. Otherwise, if they cannot be defeated or injured, it will be a great threat to their lives and safety in the wild. ZHE does not have this concern. he can get the maximum benefit while ensuring the combat power of both sides. The 4 Pokémon whose strength is probably at the beginning of the elite are the best proof. Otherwise, if you hide and go, just looking for your own task target, it is estimated that you will be lucky to meet one in 10 days. After all, if the group of the mission target is too large or too strong, he will not be able to defeat it and complete the mission, and he will have to give up and start looking again. In the end, Tetsuya's strength has also become stronger. With the help of Brachidius and Pidgeot, he can completely deal with most elite level Pokémon, at least in the Viridian Forest. Because of the terrain of Mount Tsukimi, Pidgeot is still inconvenient. Combining all the above factors, Tetsuya can achieve such an exaggerated income. Otherwise, even if a normal trainer with the same strength as Tetsuya maintains the same training intensity and training expenses in these 5 days, he can only earn about 100,000 at most. This is considered that the trainer is lucky. However, this cannot be done under normal circumstances. I suddenly got a little excited. Tetsuya began to reflect on himself. After all, he trained and fought every day, and there was not much rest time. At the same time, the question of whether his body could hold up was whether the 2 Pokémon also showed fatigue visibly, and their condition declined a little. Most of the time, it is better to combine work and rest. It is more reasonable to train one day and do tasks one day, and the impact on income will not be great. According to my plan, I will stay in each city for about a month, 8 gyms for 8 months, and the remaining 1 month for training, just in time for the opening of this year's Quartz conference. The construction of my main team will also be much faster. The main reason is that ZHE still underestimated the progress of his Pokémon. Not to mention Pidgeot, the difficulty of upgrading is also higher, and there has been basically no change in these 4 days. During the 4 days of continuous fighting and training, Strong Chicken has increased by 1 level, and is now level 27. At this rate, when I leave Nabi City, Strong Chicken is expected to break through to the elite. By then, ding, the Pokémon watch interrupted Zay's thoughts. When he opened it, it was a message from Zyadagang asking him if he had set off. When he looked at the time, there was only half an hour left, so Zay hurried to set off. It is always bad to be late. He sent a message to Zyadagang that he had set off and trotted all the way to the door of Nabi Gym. Zyadagang was already waiting. Sorry, I'm late. Zay was a little embarrassed. No, there's still some time left. I'm a little anxious. Zyadagang smiled and squinted his eyes. Since we are here, come in with me. Let's go see my Geodude first, and then I'll tell you about the things I'll give you. ZHE also nodded and followed Zyadagang into the gym. Please invest, please collect, please recommend, please vote. I want anything. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, Training Plan for Geodude. Zyadagang walked in the gym, and the gym staff and apprentices greeted him when they saw him. You are quite popular. Zaya joked. Ha 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 ha, of course, I'm very approachable. Zyadagang tilted his head and looked at Zaya. As the two of them continued to go deeper, the number of people around them gradually decreased, and they were replaced by rooms and venues. There are 6 breeding rooms over here, corresponding to different levels of elves, and there is a special team of breeders responsible for the care of the elves inside. If you have an elf that needs fostering, you can put it here for free. Some apprentices elves will also be fostered in it, and we will take care of the training, as long as you pay a part of the fee. This is the training ground, which is divided into 7 parts, responsible for different aspects of training. You can come here if you want to train later. It's hard to explain it just by talking. Zyadagang pointed to the rooms on both sides and kept introducing. As for this, it's the activity area, where Pokémon usually rest, play, or relax. Next to it is the treatment room. The Joy family has a partnership with us, and will provide some services, which are also free for you. Over there is the incubation room, where Pokémon eggs are incubated and preserved. We'll go there later. At the end are the independent cultivation rooms for me, my father, and my grandfather, which are mainly for our own Pokémon. While watching and listening to Zyagang's introduction, ZHE also felt that it was not surprising that the members of these gyms and families were far ahead of ordinary trainers in this systematic and holistic cultivation. It took several generations of effort to build these configurations and environments, not to mention the value of people and Pokémon. But there was also something strange. Isn't this training ground too big? ZHE also pointed to the huge training ground and asked. It's actually okay, because in addition to our own training, it is also open to some outstanding gym apprentices and guardians. It's a semi-open area, and there are many people training at the same time, so the space needed is naturally large. After all, every trainer keeps his training confidential, and everyone still has to have space, and the actual area is at least 10 times larger than what you see. Our gym is backed by mountains and forests, and the part at the back is also our own training ground. Some old elves live in the back, and no longer go out to fight. Zyanagang explained Tetsuya's doubts in detail, but the meaning of the words also shocked Tetsuya, thinking that the gyms and families in this world are more exaggerated than he imagined. The entire area at the back belongs to the Nabi gym. It's really amazing to divide the land for yourself. He had never come into contact with this content before, so he naturally didn't know this. Walking to the end of the gym, Zyanagang took out the key and opened the door. Okay, this is my breeding room, please come in. Tetsuya followed behind and walked in. It was a very plain rock field. Well, except for the exaggerated size, there was nothing else. Brock walked behind a rock and squatted down. Geoblast, wake up. Rather than a grey round stone with a human face floated out in the air. It was Geodude. This was not over yet. Brock knocked on the ground with a shovel beside him. Onyx, come out too. Boom boom. With a loud noise, Onyx, which was made of many huge grey rocks and shaped like a snake, emerged from the ground. Raw Onyx, which came out, also greeted Brock. Tetsuya looked at Brock. Is this Geodude? Yes, this is my second Pokémon, which has just passed the larval stage. As for the information, I have given it all that has been tested by instruments. I would like you to give me a specific breeding plan. As for Onyx, I want you to know that my initial Pokémon is already an elite. Brock said with a smile. Tetsuya nodded and walked closer to Geodude. Geodude looked at the boy curiously. His trainer had already told him that someone would be responsible for his breeding. It couldn't wait to become stronger, so that Onyx, which was bigger than it, wouldn't laugh at it for being weak. ZHE looked at Geodude for a while, then stood up. Just in case, Zyanagang, please take Geodude to do another test. I'll watch from the side. No problem, this way. Zyanagang had expected this. He let Onyx go down to rest, and took Zaya and Geodude to the door on the right side of the venue. Turn on the light. This is the testing room. The instruments inside basically cover all the content that needs to be tested for Pokémon, and the accuracy is very high. As he said that, he asked Geodude to cooperate with him to do a complete set of tests. Looking at Zyagang's busy appearance, Zaya was also constantly learning. After all, this kind of testing room is generally not seen outside. If you want to test the specific status of your Pokémon, except for the certification level, you have to spend money to find someone else, or the kind that only gives you a report. He didn't know what the functions of each instrument were. He only had a little contact with it when he was studying at the Alliance School. This should be an energy display. This is a density meter for rock-type Pokémon. This is an attack test machine, and that should be a resistance test machine. The total value of these things in the room is tens of millions, and Zaya secretly smacked his lips. By the time a set of procedures was completed, more than an hour had passed. Not only was Geodude exhausted, but the two people next to him were also a little tired. After getting the report, Zaya said to Zyanagang, okay, take a break first, I'll take a look. Okay. Zyanagang nodded and put Geodude into the Pokéball. Put it on the transmission device next to it, and Geodude was teleported to the treatment room for recovery. The two sat down on the sofa next to them, and Zyanagang poured 2 more glasses of water. Thank you. Zaya took the water and thanked Zyanagang, then read the report carefully. Of course, this was all pretended. At this time, Zaya had integrated all the information through Zero's panel, including the design of the breeding plan. But no breeder can come up with a plan so quickly, not even a breeding master can do it. So he must pretend to think. Taking out the computer he carried with him, ZHE also began to write down his ideas and plans. Xianagang was not in a hurry to see this, and he leisurely began to make tea and drink it, and from time to time he operated something through his watch. 2 hours passed quietly, and it was time for dinner. Xianagang then reminded Zay. "Oh, sorry, I didn't pay attention to the time." Zay seemed very embarrassed. No, you are helping me. What is there to be sorry about?" Xianagang waved his hand to indicate that Zay didn't have to do so. "But it is indeed time for dinner. Why don't you solve it in our gym? If you have a training plan, you can go back and send it to me. We will implement your treatment after dinner. Then I won't be polite." They didn't refuse. The two walked to the restaurant with laughter. "Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for the monthly ticket. Whatever you want!" Exclamation mark. Thanks to the book friend 20210602074340545 for the reward of 100 starting coins. PS. This section is a bit tedious and long, so I will skip it and end it. Starting from next week, I will update one more chapter at 9 PM every day, depending on the situation. Chapter 36. Investment in Nabi Gym. You can choose a Pokémon egg or exchange it for 30 million breeding funds. It depends on your choice. After dinner, Xianagang took ZHE to the incubator to choose Pokémon eggs. Generally speaking, in addition to accepting the Joy family, excellent civilian trainers will reach investment agreements with 2 or 3 other forces at most. Because each force also has allies and conflicts of interest. If a trainer accepts investment from too many forces, when a conflict occurs, it will become a situation where neither side helps or fights each other. This is certainly not what these forces want to see. You can't take resources for free, so this rule is formed under their tacit understanding. ZHE is willing to accept the investment of Nibe Gym, which is also a decision made on the premise of investigation and analysis. As one of the 8 oldest and most powerful gyms in Kanto, Nibe Gym is an extremely good choice. After all, Tokiwa Gym is Sakaki, and Cerulean Gym will be more cautious in investing when it is on the decline. Vermilion Gym has a poor reputation and is relatively weak. The Rainbow Gym Master provides financial support to female trainers. The Crimson Gym requires the knowledge of ninjutsu. The Golden Gym requires the knowledge of psychic or the presence of psychic type Pokémon. And the Crimson Gym Master Zyabo has a weird temper. In summary, among these 8 gyms, the Nabi Gym is slightly more normal. Tetsuya is also a person with a golden finger, and the funding from the Joai family and the Nabi Gym is enough for him to get through the early stage. This is also the reason why he chose to come to Nabi City first. Otherwise it would be a good choice to take a boat directly to Cerulean City or Vermilion City. Moreover, in addition to providing various kinds of help normally, the Nabi Gym said that it would also provide Tetsuya with a high quality Pokémon egg or 30 million funds as well as materials and qualifications for participating in the breeder examination. The restrictions are not big, but Tetsuya needs to help the Nabi Gym in the future in terms of breeding, and at the same time, he only needs to complete certain tasks every year, and the remuneration will be paid as usual. Tetsuya looked through all the Pokémon eggs in the incubator, which was a bit strange. The potential of these eggs is quite uniform. All of them are elite level, but they are all common ground rock type Pokémon, such as Geodude, Diglett, Sandshrew, Kirakara and the like. They didn't see any of the rarer Pokémon, which is not worth the 30 million breeding funds. According to the test, the Pokémon eggs here all have elite potential. If you like them, you can choose them. But of course there are more for you to choose from. We are not that stingy. Xianagang saw Zay's puzzled look, explained, and directly used his ID card to swipe open a small door in the corner, motioning Zay to come in. What you just saw are relatively basic Pokémon eggs, prepared for those ordinary trainers, but it's different for you. You can choose carefully here. Zay observed the Pokémon eggs in this room, and the quality was indeed far better than outside. Cheobibi, Shiwanzi, Rock Dog, Rhino, Scorpion, Screw Diglett, Boar, Wooper Wow. Although there are basically only 1 or 2 Pokémon eggs of each race, there are many types, and the Elite, Quasi King and King qualifications are mixed. But this is not the last room, right? There are more inside? Zay pointed to a small door that was exactly the same as the one just now and asked. Yes, but that is not the part you can choose for the time being. I can take you in to have a look after you finish choosing here. If you become a breeding master or one of the 4 heavenly kings, I can make the decision in advance and let you choose an egg from there. Xianagang was very straightforward. Haha, there will be such a day. Zay picked the egg and replied to Xianagang confidently, let's take this one. Well, this little guy has good development potential, and his qualifications are probably that of a heavenly king. If its mother was not only a quasi-heavenly king level Pokémon, its potential might have to be improved a little more. Xianagang saw Zay's choice and recorded it briefly and asked him to put the egg into the incubator and take it away later. Come with me to take a look inside. Maybe there is your future Pokémon. Xianagang joked and opened the third door. Walking in, there were 5 Pokémon eggs placed alone, each of which was protected tightly, and there were various instruments to detect vital signs. All the elves here are of absolutely high quality. Even now I can't choose them to breed. This is Yukara, the descendant of my father Bangala, and is estimated to be a semi-champion. This is just the Jorant, that is just Cockadora, and over there is the descendant of my grandfather's champion Swampert and a heart scale treasure. As for the qualifications, there may not be champions, but they are most likely semi-champions, and very few may be kings. Xianagang introduced Zay with a bit of boasting. Zay was indeed jealous. The final forms of the 5 elves are Bangala, Desert Dragon, Boscadora, Swampert, and Scaly Armored Dragon. Are these the elves of the rich? And after looking through 0, Yukara is a champion, and the other 4 are semi-champions. With a bunch of elite, semi-king, and king elves outside, the value of this breeding room alone is almost 4 billion. It's simply suffocating. By the way I see it, I feel that there are many elves with qualifications above the king. Zay and Xianagang walked out and raised their doubts. Xianagang narrowed his eyes and said, it's just that it looks a lot. As a native of Tokiwa City, you must have been to the black market, right? Without waiting for Tetsuya to reply, Xianagang continued to explain. Take the Changpan black market as an example. It basically gathers all the wild Pokémon eggs in the Kanto region, including some of those cultivated by our families and gyms. With such a huge base, the number of elite Pokémon eggs of each type will not exceed 50 per year at most, and the number of eggs with the potential of being a king is as low as 1/20, or even in the single digit. Among them, there are very few quasi-kings, and eggs with the potential of being a king are even rarer. The Pokémon eggs you just saw in Unabijam are not small, but they have been accumulated over the past few decades. They are also mainly elite. Quasi-kings and kings in the second room only account for less than 20%, and only about a dozen of them have the potential of being a king. Moreover, it is not certain that a Pokémon with the qualification of being a king will become a king level Pokémon. It can only be said that it will be smoother before reaching the quasi-king. The higher the qualification, the faster it will pass the weak period. However, there is a threshold for the quasi-king to the king and the subsequent breakthrough. The king qualification only means that this Pokémon has the possibility of breaking through, unlike the quasi-king qualification, which cuts off the room for improvement. If the trainer doesn't train well enough, a Pokémon with elite qualification will stop at quasi-elite, and it's not uncommon for it to fail to break through to elite. The potential of many Pokémon is wasted in this way. This is also the reason why Wooneng didn't care about ZHE's 2 high quality Pokémon at first. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for me. I ask for anything. PS. The third Pokémon will be revealed tomorrow. Chapter 37 The basis for survival and the encounter with the boy in shorts. Because the development of power depends to a certain extent on higher level combat power, such as champions. And more importantly, the unique method of cultivating a certain high quality Pokémon is passed down from generation to generation, and civilian trainers simply do not have this condition. Even if you can accidentally train a few quasi-king Pokémon, the obstacle of breaking through the king level will be stuck in front of them, and you will not be able to make any progress. This is a reality. If you are lucky enough to meet a high quality Pokémon, you can improve your own strength to a certain extent, but this will not play a decisive role in changing your destiny. Unless you are so lucky that you and your descendants keep meeting high quality Pokémon, and continue to meet more than a dozen of them, and 3 generations of common development, it is possible to achieve it. They didn't react to Zyagang's words. He just nodded and said goodbye and went back to the Pokémon Center. Zyagagang looked at Zay's figure leaving under the street light, stared for a while, and then turned and left. There is still a threshold. No wonder I felt something was wrong after buying Pokémon eggs on the black market. Although the number of Celestial King level eggs is small compared to trainers, it is not the case that the league only adds a single digit number of Celestial King trainers every year. If qualifications are just a stepping stone, then later cultivation is the key to whether a Pokémon is strong or not. Because I have 0, I can fully stimulate the potential of the champion qualification of Strong Chicken. If it were an ordinary trainer, he might eventually rely on his qualifications to force his way to the Celestial King, and it would be difficult to make any further progress. But why did Zyagagang tell me this? This part of the content is obviously not in the information given. Do you want me to develop in the direction of Master Breeder with all my strength? No. Why did you give me Pokémon eggs with Celestial King qualification? ZHE couldn't figure it out on the way back. He was already surprised by the high treatment of Nibegem, and Zyagang's attitude today made him even more puzzled. But anyway, everyone has their own thoughts. This is too normal, isn't it? Didn't he just expose the part he wanted to expose to Nibegem as usual? Even if Nibegem felt that they knew the part that I had concealed, it was not all. Who could have thought that I had 0? Unless I told others, they could only attribute it to my luck and talent. It didn't matter what the purpose of Nibegem was. The foundation of my survival was 0. As long as I could use 0 to improve my strength, these problems would no longer be a problem. Back in the room, Tetsuya made a plan for the cultivation of Geodude and sent it to Zyagagang. Then he began to review the knowledge of the breeder examination. After all, according to Zyagagang, the Alliance Breeder Center next to the Crimson City will conduct this year's breeder level assessment in 4 months. Nibegem got me a place in the 6th level Breeder's Leapfrog assessment, which I need to pass. Of course, Tetsuya couldn't refuse. After all, it was also good for me, and I couldn't get such a place. Otherwise I would have to take the exam 1 level at a time. 1 level a year would waste several years. For him, the difficulty of this exam can only be said to be a small matter. After studying for 2 hours, Tetsuya didn't fall asleep until almost 12 o'clock. Nothing happened that night. When ZHE woke up the next morning, he found that Zyagagang had deposited the reward for the customized plan into his account 5 million. He could only say that rich people are generous, and more rich people like this should come. After washing up, ZHE went to the Viridian Forest to exercise with Pidgeot and Brachidius as usual. I want to challenge your Brachidius. A voice came from behind ZHE, scaring him and Brachidius, who were resting. While secretly blaming himself for letting down his guard, he turned around to see who was so stupid that he would approach other trainers casually in the wild. A white t-shirt, yellow shorts, and a limited edition hat. It was exactly the outfit of a shorts kid in a game. ZHE looked weird and pointed at himself. You want to challenge my Brachidius? Of course. Is there anyone else here besides you? The shorts kid widened his eyes. Sitting on the ground leisurely, Tetsuya asked, trainer battles are a prize. Kid, what do you have? Fortunately, he was a little kid who didn't know what was good for him, and Tetsuya didn't realize that he was about the same age as him. If it was in the forest in Viridian City before, this kind of person who approached him in the wild for no reason would have been dealt with long ago. After all, when adventuring in the wild, it is not just the wild Pokémon that you have to be wary of. In any case, humans are the most dangerous creatures. This kid in shorts is probably just preparing to become a trainer, so let him suffer a little to adjust his mood. Tetsuya didn't take the person opposite him seriously at all. After all, normal residents can only complete their studies and have the qualifications to get their first Pokémon at the age of 16, and only geniuses like him can graduate early. His strength has long been ahead of his peers. When the kid in shorts heard him say this, He was also stunned for a moment, and then he stammered and couldn't say anything. If you don't have it, go back and don't wander around in the wild. Tetsuya waved his hand to signal not to disturb him. Who said I don't have it? I'll use this to compete with you. The boy in shorts blushed when he saw that he didn't care and took out a stone from his pocket. It was a broken fossil. Zaya took a look and was about to refuse, but he hesitated when he remembered his fossil collection plan. Then you can play with him, Brichidius. If I lose, I'll give you 3 days supply of energy cubes. The first sentence was said to Brichidius, and the second sentence was in response to the boy in shorts. Brichidius nodded and stood in front of Zaya. When the boy in shorts heard that Zaya accepted his challenge, he also took out the Pokeball excitedly. Go, Geodude. Humph. Although your Brichidius may be higher in level, the damage of the fire type to Geodude is very low, and Brichidius doesn't have many fighting skills in the early stage. The boy in shorts was very confident. Geodude, use sand throw on the glasses on the opposite side. Free fight. Zaya gave an order lazily. This kind of newbie is similar to the Geodude he stepped on before in Mount Tsukimi. He doesn't need to be commanded at all, and Brichidius must understand what he means. Brichidius dodged the dust raised by Geodude with just his own speed. Then he quickly approached, without using any skills, and beat Geodude with his physical fitness alone. The boy in shorts shouted beside him, hold on, Geodude, use rolling to dodge. But Brichidius didn't give Geodude a chance to resist or dodge. Even without energy damage, Geodude soon fainted. Geodude. The boy in shorts couldn't believe it. Leave the fossil behind. You can go back to the Pokémon Center. The battles there are more suitable for you. ZHE didn't care how badly the opponent was abused. This was for his own good to teach him a lesson. It's also what every senior trainer likes to do. Seeking investment, collection, recommendation, and monthly ticket. Whatever you want. P.S. No. Chapter 38 New Elves. I'm such a great man. Tetsuya was still sighing. The boy in shorts was depressed and put the Geodude back into the Pokeball. He walked to Tetsuya and put down the broken fossil and ran away without saying anything. Don't take risks in the forest if you don't have anything to do. It's not fun. He kindly reminded him, but he didn't know if he listened. Every year, there are always many newcomers who enter the Viridian Forest and lose their lives. After all, every trainer thinks that his Pokémon is the best at the beginning and has no estimate of the opponent's strength. He just rushed up stupidly, just like before. Okay, brawler, continue training. Tetsuya didn't take it to heart. It was just a small episode in the training. This place was already very remote, and it was not easy for anyone to come. He asked Pidgeot to pay attention to the surroundings when training in the air, and Tetsuya didn't make any other arrangements. Just now was just an exception. Generally speaking, he would be on guard. Brawler and Pidgeot were training hard, and Tetsuya was not idle on the side. After preparing the potion to supplement the nutrition for the two Pokémons, he also began to study and review various knowledge. Nothing in this world can be obtained without hard work. ZHE also has the ability and strength he has now, not just relying on Zero's ability. If it weren't for his persistent study over the years, Zero wouldn't be able to provide so much information. After the training, ZHE didn't rest as usual and went to the Nabi Gym. He wanted to prepare the materials for his third Pokémon partner. As for why it was the Nabi Gym, it was because he could get a 50% discount on the materials there. This would save at least several million, so he had to seize the opportunity. After preparing everything, he returned to the room. Calculating the time, it had been 14 hours since the official start of the hatching, and the little guy should be able to come out in 15 hours normally. ZHE also took out the hatching instrument and fixed it on the desktop and continued to study. I don't know how long it took, but the eggs in the incubator began to emit white light. ZHE also calmly put down the computer. After all, he was an old midwife trainer, and this scene was familiar to him. He quickly sorted out everything and prepared the materials needed for the young Pokémon. He squatted in front of the incubator and quietly waited for the birth of the new member. Dangoro. A crisp and dull strange voice sounded, and a smile gradually appeared on the corner of Tetsuya's mouth. Hello, Aishimaru. Dangoro. The horn on Ishimaru's head swung, and the sound just now came out from his body again. Ishimaru is different from ordinary elves. Its whole body is a dark blue body like stone, its feet are two multifaceted stones, and there is a cone-shaped upright brown stone on its head. According to research, it is its horn. There is a light yellow hexagonal hole in the center of its body. In fact, this is its ear, not an organ like a mouth or eyes. The core in the center of the hole is black. This is the core in the middle of Ishimaru's body, which is its energy core. The way of eating is also to absorb the energy of objects through the core. Tetsuya put the special nutritional materials prepared in advance in front of its core. Hearing the movement, Ishimaru carefully moved its body and began to absorb the energy it needed. This is also a peculiar point of Shiwanzi. It moves completely by hearing. When it is young, it will walk towards the direction of the sound, but once the sound stops, it will fall down in confusion. You can't put your hand into its core, otherwise it will be furious. Seeing Shiwanzi eat everything, they took out the luxury bowl. Shiwanzi, come to the Pokeball first, go in and rest. Dangoro. Shiwanzi quickly agreed to the request of the owner of this kind voice. A red light flashed, and Shiwanzi entered the luxury bowl and began to rest. This is the third Pokémon that they chose in the breeding room of Nabijim. Originally, Shiwanzi was not within his consideration because there was only one stage of evolution of Mantle Rock. But as he learned some of the knowledge content about the evolution of Pokémon sent by Nabijim, he knew that Mantle Rock could also evolve into Giant Rock through the recently newly released communication evolution method. The so-called communication evolution is to put the Mantle Rock in the Pokeball and transmit it through a special Pokémon transmission instrument. Under the influence of an unknown force, the Mantle Rock will evolve into a giant rock monster in this process. There are many Pokémon that evolve in this way, and some even need to be matched with props. It was because of reading the relevant knowledge about the giant rock monster that Tetsuya chose Ishiwanko as his third Pokémon. The performance of the evolved giant rock monster on both offense and defense is no less than that of the tank candidate in his mind, Boscadora. Compared with Boscadora's greater focus on defense, the offensive and defensive capabilities of the giant rock monster are basically the same, both of which are very outstanding. The speed of the two is not much different. The flexibility of the giant rock monster in a small range is better, and the speed of Boscadora is faster when sprinting. The only disadvantage is that it cannot be mega evolved, but mega evolution cannot be used at the same time. Mega evolution is destined to be exclusive to Blaziken, so this disadvantage is gone. What's more, the Pokémon of this series of Ishiwanko are extremely sensitive to sound, and can also be used as a warning in the wild. In addition, the qualifications of this stone bull are also at the level of a king, which has great potential and value for cultivation. Originally, ZHE thought that, if there was no stone bull, cultivating a large onyx and carrying a metal membrane to evolve into a large steelix would also be a good choice. But if there is a stone bull, of course it is the first choice, otherwise you have to spend money to prepare the metal membrane. You know, this thing is rare and expensive. Although due to the special nature of the stone bull, the cost of cultivating it is not cheap, but the materials are not rare. Thanks to the extremely complete variety of rock ground type Pokémon in the Nabijim, basically, except for the ancient fossil Pokémon and some quasi-gods with corresponding attributes, Roundus, there are Pokémon eggs stored in the incubator. In this way, the basic configuration of the team is completed. ZHE said secretly. When the stone ball evolves into the Mantle Rock, the brute is estimated to have evolved into the Flame Chicken. With the help of Pidgeot, it can be said that this Linoop has excellent various abilities in the wild, enough to deal with most situations. Now it just needs more time to develop. After thinking about it, I can stay in Nabi City for another month. In the remaining 50 days, make full use of the training grounds of the Nabijim to train, complete tasks and buy materials, and try to set off after achieving the goal. As for the less time, you can stay in Rainbow City and Red Lotus Town for a while, just get the badge and leave. What a pity. ZHE also sighed. He originally wanted to take advantage of that time, to go shopping in the mall, and soak in the hot springs, to rest for a while. It seems that there is no hope. Who can't keep up with the changes? ZHE never expected that this sentence would come true so quickly. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for me. I ask for anything. Exclamation mark. Please, I have been looking for what this thing is called for a while, and it seems that no one has written about it. Then I listened to it for a while, and found that I couldn't write a Chinese onomatopoeia at all, so I just used this very strange onomatopoeia. I tried my best. A reader actually mentioned it in a post before. I didn't expect it. Hahaha. After all, when it comes to defense types, the first reaction should be Boscadora or something like that, because it is more handsome. I was originally planning to use Steelix. After all, its physical defense is very high, but later I found that it also needs a metal film, which increases the cost, so I gave up. And the Sandpong Rock monster does fit many tactics, such as the Sandstorm Team's space tactics. And if you look closely, it's actually quite handsome, and it feels like a rock dragon. Chapter 39 Xiaogang's Commission. When Ishimaru passed the Larval stage and Tetsuya was about to start training, his plan was suddenly interrupted. What? You want me to take this year's Seinden for you? Tetsuya looked at Xiaogang a little confused. Xiaogang smiled embarrassedly. Isn't it that I'm a little busy recently? Saint Anne always invites representatives from our gyms to visit every year, which can be regarded as a social occasion. Originally, I should go, but I really don't have time. You also know my family situation. Please do me a favor. Xiaogang put his hands together and begged Tetsuya. After all, the two of them gradually became familiar with each other in nearly a month of getting along. Putting aside their identities, the two of them are very similar in age and interests, so naturally they will not be as awkward as before. No, if you are not free, then I'm free. I still have to train Ishimaru. Tetsuya said unhappily, and what's the point of me going there? He didn't want to get involved in the social occasions of the descendants of the top leaders of the alliance now. It was far from the right time. Really not willing? I really don't want to do it. 2 million errands fee. Deal. As the saying goes, it's not that I don't have time, or I don't want to do it, it's just that the price you offer is not high enough. ZHE also readily agreed to Xiaogang's labor dispatch. After all, he paid for it, and the time was only a week's ship trip. In the end, he made a profit. The St. Anne's is very big, and it's not that he can't train on it, and he can also enjoy high-end treatment. I knew it. You have to talk about money. It hurts so much. Xiaogang said unhappily. In the past month, Xiaogang has completely seen this guy's heart, which is all in the shape of money. This is the income from my reasonable labor, and talking about feelings hurts money. Do you know how difficult it is to make a little money these days? I'm not a rich man like you. ZHE also disdained this. What do you mean my heart is all in the shape of money? That won't work. I have to take it out and exchange it for money quickly. By the way, there will be a competition on the ship. The prize for the champion seems to be an evolution stone with any attribute you choose plus a charcoal with 10% effect. It is said that the sponsor is the three brothers from Stone Town. Damn, they are too rich. Xiaogang said casually, complained again, and then ran away. Swish. ZHE quickly approached Xiaogang and pressed him to the ground. What a thing. You ask me to compete for you. He said indignantly, with your small body, if you run again, I will make you unable to escape even with one hand, believe it or not. It hurts. It hurts. If you really win the championship, the rewards are all yours, and the errand fee will be increased to 500 W. Xiaogang hurriedly begged for mercy, and at the same time, used his ultimate move to ZHE, throwing money. No problem, you stand up, be careful, I'm so sorry. ZHE apologized 4 times in a row, and immediately changed his face. Xiaogang patted the dust off his clothes. HMPH, you're quick to change. He took out a ticket from his pants pocket. Here, this is the ticket to the Saint Anus. Don't lose it, there's only one. Don't worry. They naturally knew how precious this thing was. Regardless of whether he won the championship in the competition on the ship or the so-called errand fee given by Xiaogang, the ticket for this week alone was sold at a high price of 5 million alliance coins in the market. What's more, what Xiaogang gave was definitely not for an ordinary room. The ticket price for a VIP room was at least 12 million. It's no wonder that the Saint and Us, the most luxurious ship in the world, only docked at the port of Vermilion City twice a year, once for departure and once for return, with a week in between. Everyone wants to go up and experience it, and there are many wealthy people in Kanto, and many people are willing to spend a lot of money to enjoy it. What do you say I sell this thing? They suddenly had an idea. If you dare to sell it, I'll beat you to death. Xayagang's face turned black when he heard this. Tetsuya quickly raised his hands above his head to show that he knew he was wrong and that he would never do such a thing. Xayagaang shook his head helplessly. This was also Tetsuya's character. He was a very steady person in fighting and training, but he would occasionally have a brain twitch. You'd better get a good ranking in the competition to bring some face to our Nabi gym. Seeing Tetsuya's puzzled eyes, Xayagaang explained a little. This is also an annual exchange meeting. Usually the gym sends future heirs or investors like you as representatives to participate. The elves fight to see if there are any outstanding descendants. When the time comes, the old man and his family will get together and chat, which will also be face saving. Basically, they are all people of the same age. People under 16 and over 20 are not allowed to participate in this competition, so you are very strong with your strength. Tetsuya nodded to show that he understood, but then he thought something was wrong. What is the competition system of this competition? 2v2. The semi-finals and finals are 3v3. Xayagaang smiled awkwardly. He looked at Xayagaang speechlessly. How can I have 3 Pokémons to play in the semi-finals and finals? Doesn't your Stone Ball count as one? Besides, your Powerful and Pidgeot are so strong. Who can beat these two? You can also let Stone Ball gain experience or something. Xayagaang also knew that he was in the wrong and explained reluctantly. ZHE looked at Xayagaang in confusion and then suddenly realized, don't you only have 2 Pokémons? No wonder you don't want to play. You are afraid of being beaten and losing face. Don't talk nonsense. Isn't it normal for me, a 16-year-old, to be unable to beat them? Besides, there is no shame in losing because of youth. And Geodude has already broken through to the normal level, and Onyx has just broken through to the elite level. Xayagaang blushed and kept on defending himself. ZHE turned a deaf ear to him and looked carefully at the date on the ticket. He checked the time, and it was about 10 days away. After pondering for a while, he thought that with the Nabi Gym's venue and his own training plan, these 10 days should be enough for Xuanzi to barely reach the ordinary level. After all, it is relatively easy to upgrade to level 10 in the early stage, and Xuanzi only needs to absorb energy to prepare for evolution most of the time. It should be okay to use it to participate in the competition. Anyway, with Pidgeot and Strong Chicken supporting him, it doesn't matter if he can't win the championship. The main thing is to be loyal. Besides, many of them are not as good as me. Oh, by the way, what are you having for lunch today? Xayagaang was stunned for a moment by Zay's sudden question, and replied naturally, braised synthetic beef stewed with potatoes, Takia stir-fried green vegetables and steamed eggs. Okay, I'll go train first. You do your best. Okay. Xayagaang nodded and turned around to prepare to cook. The two of them agreed to train together and take turns to cook lunch and dinner for the day. Today was his turn. But suddenly he felt that something was wrong, and Xayagaang immediately turned back. At this time, Zay had no idea where he had run to, and he probably started training. Xayagaang had to give up the idea in his mind. It would be the same if he talked about it later when he was eating. He thought, please invest, please collect, please recommend, please vote for the monthly ticket. I want anything! Exclamation mark. Thanks for the 100 Kidian coins for seeing the reply. PS. You can have it at 9 o'clock. Chapter 40 Learning and Training. After shaking off Xayagaang, Zay came to the training room. While urging his Pokémon to continue training hard, he was also learning new knowledge to improve himself and Zero. The characteristics of Pokémon are a very strange concept. The first person to propose this concept was Dr. Uchiki, who specializes in studying the differences of Pokémon in the Orange Islands. Then, doctors from various regions joined together to conduct in-depth research on this topic. In the end, the doctors headed by Dr. Oak gave a simple definition of characteristics, that is, the special abilities that each Pokémon possesses. In other words, the essence of characteristics is the special abilities that individuals may possess, based on the characteristics of the Pokémon itself. Take the chlorophyll characteristics possessed by most grass-type Pokémon as an example. It is precisely because of the special physical characteristics of some grass-type Pokémon that the overall structure is more like a combination of plants and animals, which makes their bodies more active in the sun, so Pokémon with chlorophyll will increase their speed in clear weather. Take Pokémon such as Caracalla, whose head has strong resistance to blows, as an example. Because of its excellent head defense, it has a hard head that can protect it from the reaction force of its own attack. In the study, the doctors found that the number of characteristics possessed by each Pokémon group is different. The least has only one characteristic, while the most can have 3 different characteristics. Through further comparative analysis, it was found that among the elves with 2 or 3 characteristics, the most outstanding individuals often have 2 different characteristics at the same time, which is completely different from the single characteristic of the general individuals. After data integration, the doctors gave a more specific description and classification of the characteristics, namely the first characteristic, the second characteristic, and the hidden characteristic. There is no need to say much about the elves with a single characteristic. This kind of elves do not even have hidden characteristics, and all individuals have the same characteristics. In addition, if an elf group only has the first and second characteristics, but no hidden characteristics, then the common individuals among them will only have one of the characteristics as their special ability. At present, no elves with both the first and second characteristics have been found. And if, on the basis of having the first or second characteristics, this elf race also has a hidden characteristic, note that it is, or, not, and, that is, even if an elf has only one first characteristic, and no second characteristic, if the group has a hidden characteristic, it also meets the above conditions. Similarly, an elf group with the first, second and hidden characteristics at the same time naturally meets the conditions. Then, in addition to having one of the first 2 characteristics, the most outstanding individuals will also have an additional hidden characteristic as their special ability. Take Onyx as an example. The first characteristic of the population is a hard head, the second characteristic is strong, and the hidden characteristic is broken armor. Generally, individuals will have one of the characteristics of hard head or strong. Extremely excellent individuals will have hidden characteristics in addition to hard head or strong, and broken armor. Among them, extremely excellent individuals refer to elves with king qualifications and above. According to the sample, under the condition that the group has hidden characteristics, the probability of king qualifications individuals having hidden characteristics is about 50%. Because the number of samples of semi-champion qualifications is small, the probability can only be estimated to be 60% to 70%. Under the same conditions, elves with champion qualifications all have hidden characteristics, without exception. And elves below king qualifications have no hidden characteristics, and there are no exceptions. At the same time, the doctors also found that the characteristics of elves will change after evolution, but there is a law, that is, the continuity of characteristics. The so-called continuity means that, if an elf individual with the first characteristic changes during evolution, the corresponding characteristic will also be the first characteristic of the next form instead of the second characteristic. The same is true for elves with the second characteristic. Take Ishiganko as an example. Its first characteristic is firmness, and its second characteristic is armor shattering. The first and second characteristics of Mantle Rock remain unchanged. Therefore, Ishiganko with the firm characteristic still has the firm characteristic after evolution, and Ishiganko with the armor shattering characteristic still has the armor shattering characteristic after evolution. However, Pangiant Monster's first characteristic is firmness, and its second characteristic becomes blowing sand. Therefore, Ishiganko and Mantle Rock, which have the first characteristic of firmness, still have the first characteristic of firmness after evolution into their final form. And Ishiganko and Mantle Rock, which have the second characteristic of breaking armor, become Pangiant Monster's second characteristic of blowing sand after evolution into their final form. If the hidden characteristics before and after evolution are inconsistent, this property also applies to the hidden characteristics. The doctors speculate that the hidden characteristics may have other properties, but because the proportion of samples with hidden characteristics is too small, no conclusion can be drawn yet. Putting down the information, Tetsuya said to himself, I see. The acceleration characteristic of strong chicken is a special ability caused by its own excellent leg muscle development. It must have it as a champion. As for Pidgeot and Ishigaki, I can only say that I was lucky and hit the half chance. In other words, Pidgeot and Ishigaki are also extremely outstanding among the kings. Otherwise, it is impossible for them to both have hidden characteristics. Yes, Ishigaki also has hidden characteristics. On Zero's panel, Ishigaki's panel now looks like this, after it has passed the larval stage. Ishigaki category, mantle Pokémon attributes, rock height 0.5 meters, average value is 0.4 meters, weight 22 kilograms, average value is 18 kilograms, characteristics, shattered armor, if damaged by physical moves, defense will be reduced, and speed will be greatly increased. Hidden characteristics, sand power, during sandstorms, the power of rock attribute, ground attribute and steel attribute moves will be increased. Skills, impact, sand swipe, harden, invisible rock, gravity, inherited, wide area defense, inherited, level 6, novice, potential, king cultivation method, due to the special nature of the elves. Feed them with high energy crystals until they evolve. The synthesis method is as follows, due to the high talent of rock attributes. Supplemented by various special rocks, it can have different effects and resistances on the rocks on its surface. The specific situation is as follows. Close bracket. And the armor breaking characteristic of the stone ball will also become the corresponding second characteristic of raising sand. After it evolves into a giant rock monster, it will be like a fish in water when combined with the power of sand. This in turn proves that this stone ball has a very high talent in rock attributes, and it also meets Zero's detection. ZHE also nodded slightly, indicating that he had gained a lot. After all, this kind of knowledge is not open to the outside world. He used to wonder why there are so-called hidden characteristics. Now it seems that it is just that individuals with excellent qualifications are stronger in some aspects because of their talents. Strong chicken. Pay attention when exerting force on your right calf. Don't relax too much. While thinking, ZHE saw that the brachycephalian on the side was a little out of shape, so he reminded it. This is also what a good trainer should do, because Pokémon are also living things. They will get tired, have emotions, and will be distracted during training. At this time, the trainer needs to be there to remind them. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for me. I ask for everything. PS. Briefly explain the concept of dual characteristics. Although in the official setting a Pokémon will only have one characteristic, I still added some reasons when I wrote it myself. It may be a bit toxic to some readers who insist on the original setting. Sorry. Of course, it is not complete because the timeline is early and many research results have not come out. For example, the special features of the self-willed characteristics of Rock Dog and the bond evolution characteristics of Greninja. I personally think that there is probably nothing wrong with this setting. If you don't understand the description, you can look at the examples and you should be able to understand. In addition, not all of the protagonists' Pokémon will have dual characteristics. Chapter 41 Learning and Training. Rakshasa is now training his core strength in the gravity room of the Nabi Gym training ground. Stand up a little wider, hold the last position for 2 seconds before lowering yourself. Rakshasa uttered a sound with difficulty, changing his movements. After doing 5, take a break, and 3 more rounds. Tetsuya was also training himself on a field with slight gravity while watching Rakshasa's progress. His upper body was already soaked. When Ishimaru evolves in the future, we can focus on training its control of gravity skills. This way, we can use gravity to train anytime and anywhere, and the weighted suit still has its limits. Tetsuya's body was constantly moving, and his mind did not stop thinking. Looking at Ishimaru who was replenishing nutrition and training skills next to him, He also reminded him, Ishimaru, your skill training will end in 15 minutes. Don't overconsume the stored energy. Dangoro. Ishimaru said he understood. Maybe because of its own attributes, Ishiwanko's personality is very calm, not like a Pokémon who has just passed the larval stage. After finishing the last round of training, Zaya stood up. At this time, Brachydius was already resting on the side. Seeing that his trainer had finished the training, Brachydius picked up the towel on the side and handed it to him. Chamo. Thanks, Brachydius. Zaya took the towel and wiped the sweat on his upper body. I'm slower than you. What are you proud of? I think you haven't trained enough, and you still have the energy to think about these things, he said unhappily. When Brachydius handed over the towel just now, he laughed at him for exercising so slowly today. Shaking his head, his own Brachydius can be said to have a very strange personality, not as irritable as ordinary fire Pokémon. If you want to use an adjective to describe it, it's probably asking for a beating. Fortunately, he is very attentive to battles and training, and is not that naughty. Rest well and take the number 3 nutritional potion. Then add a set of core strength training, and then carry weights and gravity multiples as usual to complete 5 sets of leg muscle training. ZHE also instructed Liz Hyang. I'll go to the wind pressure room to check on Pidgeot. You watch the stone balls and let him absorb 500 G of number 3 rock in the material room after training his skills. Chamo. Liz Hyang nodded. Chamo? Yes, after it's done, just let it control its internal energy flowers before. It's less troublesome than you, so there's no need for you to tell it. Chamo. Okay, you're right. It's almost time to rest. Hurry up and finish the potion, and go to the energy room to practice energy control after you're done. ZHE also drank a sip of water, stood up, and walked to the wind pressure room to check on Pidgeot's progress, regardless of Liz Hyang complaining behind his back that he didn't answer carefully. Liz Hyang finished drinking the potion. His trainer had no advantages at all, except that he was a little more handsome, cooked a little more delicious, was very good at training, and gave good commands. This guy definitely doesn't have a girlfriend. He can't talk at all. He stood up and sighed silently. He still had to train by himself. It's so difficult to train Pokémon these days. HU. ZHE also sneezed while walking on the road. I just caught a cold after training. It turns out that I still need to wear a coat. When he came to the wind pressure room, Pidgeot was training inside. He greeted the trainers who were resting on the side and walked into the corresponding observation room next to it. In simple terms, the wind pressure room simulates a natural storm weather where flying Pokémon can train their bodies and sense energy. Because the Night Gym is a rock type gym, Zyadagang said that the scale of this wind pressure room is relatively small. In some gyms specializing in flying, this wind pressure room is the key building, and it is exaggeratedly large. The wind pressure room is also divided into small rooms. A large part of the room is the training ground, and the rest is divided out to be used as the trainer's observation room. The two are separated by a reinforced transparent glass panel. Trainers can observe and command the training process of Pokémon in the observation room through broadcasting. Looking at Pidgeot flying against the wind, Tetsuya nodded. It seemed that Pidgeot was not slacking off. He called up Zero's panel and frowned. The higher the level, the slower the energy increases, and the slower the upgrade. It has been almost a month since Pidgeot's level was upgraded to level 43, and now Pidgeot is still only at level 44. At this rate, Pidgeot would have been around level 50 at most during the Quartz conference. However, although the level has not changed, after this period of training, Pidgeot has made great progress compared to before. His physical fitness has improved a lot compared to before, and his skill proficiency has also increased. However, it seems that skills with different attributes are indeed more difficult for Pidgeot to improve proficiency and power. Tetsuya looked at the panel showing that Pidgeot had mastered the skill of Hot Wind, and squinted his eyes in thought. After Brawnax mastered Hot Wind, he asked it to teach Pidgeot this skill. However, the two Pokémon's progress in this skill was completely different. At the beginning, the hot wind of the two Pokémons could only be described as a simple high temperature wind, which was of little use, except making people feel hot, and accelerating physical exhaustion. However, with the mastery of the skill of the Brachiochido, it can now use the skill of Heat Wind to burn some Pokémon. The power of Pidgeot's Heat Wind has basically increased a little bit. Heat Wind can be regarded as a powerful fire-type ultimate move, but all skills need to be practiced. Otherwise, when you first master it, except for a few status skills, the damage caused will not be as good as expected. Fortunately, ZHE did not expect Pidgeot to cause a lot of damage with Heat Wind, mainly to increase the attack surface of the skill, which is a slight improvement. Pidgeot's biggest progress is still in the mastery of flying and the perception of wind. Although he still cannot master the two ultimate moves of Brave Bird or Divine Bird, the mastery of the Storm skill is also a pleasant surprise. Moreover, the current Pidgeot has preliminarily completed ZHE's requirements for it, that is, to maintain high-speed movement and lightning flash for a long time without losing flexibility. A long time ago, ZHE's requirement for Pidgeot was to win with speed and play to his strengths. However, maintaining high-speed movement and lightning flash for a long time requires extremely high physical strength and the ability to control skills. Before this, Pidgeot could not achieve this goal very well. However, in the recent training in the wind pressure chamber, Pidgeot gradually found the state of maintaining high-speed movement and gained further understanding of this skill. In addition to the continuous use of lightning flash, Pidgeot can now be said to have reached the current extreme in terms of speed. At least it is no problem to take Zaya with him to escape, as long as Zaya is well protected. Otherwise he may be very uncomfortable under the pressure of high speed. After watching for a long time, Zaya walked to the microphone and said through the radio, "Today's training is over. Pidgeot, you can rest. I will turn off the wind pressure device. Please pay attention to yourself. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for the monthly ticket. I ask for everything." Exclamation mark. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Curious Baby. Beep. Pidgeot heard a familiar voice, turned around and saw his trainer standing in the observation room. He called out to respond to the trainer's instructions, and Pidgeot's huge body turned around with an unreasonable degree of flexibility and flew to the corner of the room. Tetsuya watched Pidgeot's movements and quickly turned off the instrument. Before stopping the training in the wind pressure room, you still need to communicate with the Pokémon and be prepared. Otherwise, if the instrument is suddenly turned off, the Pokémon may be caught off guard and lose balance and center of gravity in the fierce confrontation, causing unnecessary injuries. This is a key point that Tetsuya was told when he first came. He pushed open the small door next to him and walked into the quiet training ground. "Thank you for your hard work, Pidgeot." He combed Pidgeot's messy feathers. Beep. Pidgeot kept rubbing his head against Tetsuya's body to show closeness. Patting Pidgeot's head. "Okay, you go in the Pokeball first and rest. I'll take you to dinner after the training of the power kick is finished." Pidgeot nodded, and Tetsuya took out the deluxe ball and put it in. Then he went to the energy room and the material room to put the trained strong chicken and stone ball back into their respective luxury balls, and ZHE also walked to the small restaurant. When he came to Zyadagang's personal kitchen, Zyadagang had already prepared the meal and was waiting. He released his 3 Pokémons and ZHE also put the prepared recipes in each of their bowls, and also made a portion for Zyadagang's Geodude. As for Onyx, it was too big to get in, so Zyadagang put it in its living area in advance. Yes, Zyadagang usually doesn't put Onyx back into the Pokeball. After all, for its body length of more than 9 meters, even if the space in the luxury ball is large, it is far less comfortable than the outside world. ZHE could only say that the area behind the gym is large enough, and the rich are different. The two of them ate dinner, and Zyadagang just remembered the question he hadn't finished asking at noon. "When are you leaving?" 10 days later, ZHE said vaguely, while eating synthetic beef. He picked up the drink beside him and took a sip. "By then, Ishimaru will probably be able to reach the normal level. According to what you said, he can still go on stage for some training." Zyadagang nodded. "Almost. Most of the descendants of the gyms in the Kanto region who are participating in the competition this year are just over 16 years old, and basically each of them has 2 Pokémon. In previous years, their older brothers and sisters participated, but this year they are older. There are very few initial Pokémon like me who break through to the elite level. Most of them have to normal level Pokémon or an ordinary initial Pokémon with a novice level 1. Then what's the significance of the 3v3 in the semi-finals and finals? ZHE also quickly discovered the highlight. Doesn't this mean that the trainers who participate in the competition can be invested trainers, and not all of them are just over 16 years old? Xianagang said speechlessly. Of course, this is also an unspoken rule. Generally speaking, only the 8 major gyms in Kanto can send trainers like you. Generally, the substitutes are just around 17 over 18 years old, and they won't be stuck at just under 20 years old, otherwise it would be unreasonable, but basically they all have 3 Pokémon. Then there has never been a situation where there are only 2 Pokémon or only 1 Pokémon on each side in the end. ZHE did not give up, and argued with Xianagang while eating. Yes, why not change the rules to 2v2? Xianagang said casually. Huh? What? It's not a particularly formal competition. What does it matter? Xianagang glanced at ZHE. Then can't you just say that I only have 2 Pokémon? ZHE quickly found another loophole. What on earth are you thinking? Brock was helpless. Tetsuya was really not going to give up until he achieved his goal. Although it's not official, you have to upload the number and level of your Pokémon before the competition. If someone finds out that it's wrong, it will be a disgrace to our Nibi gym. Tetsuya curled his lips. Okay, if you say so, what can I do? Rubbing his swollen and aching head, Brock was also a little overwhelmed by Tetsuya. When the time comes, the information of your opponents and the people from the other 31 gyms participating in the competition will be sent to you. You can take a look in the next few days. 31. Only the official gyms. Tetsuya wiped his mouth, almost finished eating, and asked Brock like a curious baby while drinking his drink. Well, other gyms are not qualified. Brock said very calmly. Tetsuya had nothing to say about this. After all, Nabi Gym had the strength and qualifications to say such things. It can be seen from the fact that only the 8 gyms in Kanto can send invested trainers to replace the heirs at will, and other official gyms can only replace when there is really no one. Other official gym heirs will also have to participate in this competition when they turn 16 this year, but Xiaogang doesn't have to go when he turns 16, and Tetsuya can do it for him. As for whether there are so many gym heirs, after all, people in this world have good physiques and there is no mandatory monogamy system, although most people are still monogamous. In addition, even the sons and daughters of the gym owner's brothers can inherit the gym, so there are still many so-called heirs to each gym. Nibi Gym is one of the few exceptions. Xiaogang is the only big brother who is 10 years older than his younger brothers and sisters, so basically the future heir of Nibi Gym is Xiaogang. Your Pidgeot's energy level is probably much higher than that of your peers, so you will have a lot of advantages. As for Caradry, it is not at a disadvantage in terms of level, and its qualifications are relatively higher. As one of the 3 starter Pokémons, it is also relatively strong in battle. In addition, if we, the descendants, are not elite or quasi-elite trainers, the elders will not spend money to find high-level breeders to breed Pokémon for us. They will let us do it ourselves, which can also promote the bond and communication between Pokémons. So your training is also advantageous. Xianagang skillfully arranged the table and kept analyzing. ZHE also drank his drink and said very bluntly, there is no need to analyze so much. Just say that you are strong among them, but you can't beat me, so they can't beat me either. Isn't it okay? Xianagang's face darkened. Indeed, the 2 of them fought several games privately in this month, but Xianagang didn't win once. Let's not talk about the Geodude who just started to train. It's okay that Onyx can't beat that Pidgeot and was kitted, but Caradry can barely beat Onyx. Xianagang estimated that Zaya's Brachicharton had the qualifications to be a quasi-champion. After all, his Onyx was also a Pokémon with top qualifications. Even though he was 1 stage ahead, he could still be evenly matched. Although it had something to do with Zaya's breeding of Brachicharton with a fighting type to restrain Onyx, it would not be possible without high qualifications. It was precisely because Zaya's strength was indeed stronger than his own, and much stronger, that he let Zaya participate in the competition on his behalf, after reading other people's information. Otherwise, his grandfather would not let him go easily if he lost face. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for me. I ask for anything. Thank you Cheyenne Bingyuxen for the 200 starting coins. Thank you for the 500 starting coins. After seeing the reply PS, available at 9 o'clock. Chapter 43 Saint Anne. Okay, I'll leave first. See you tomorrow. Zaya left after saying this. Xiaogang was no longer surprised and was doing his own thing. Zaya was walking on the way back thinking about what Xiaogang asked him to do today. It's not that he couldn't understand it. After all, Xiaogang had to take care of his younger brothers and sisters. It was said that he didn't trust outsiders to take care of them. The martial arts Jimona was very busy and really couldn't spare the time to go. In addition, he was not yet 17 years old and was stronger than Xiaogang, so it was reasonable for him to go. After so many battles, Xiaogang should have almost realized that his brute force was not the top player, but it was not a big problem. Zaya himself was not afraid of the Alliance and other open forces. After all, there were still rules to follow. As I thought before, as long as Zero was not exposed, it would not be too dangerous for brute force to be exposed, even if it might be the champion's qualification. After all, Nabijim had already seen his talent investment, and Nabijim would not do the thing of snatching Pokémons. Other forces would not risk offending Nabijim to snatch a Pokémon that was not sure whether it was really the champion's qualification. Even if I secretly snatched it, I would have to apologize to the Nabijim and return it. If I was discovered, it would not be worth it. The most feared thing is that those poaching teams would target me, and I would lose my life. This kind of competition is for internal personnel, so it doesn't matter. I should be careful in other competitions. I looked at the introductions of the contestants from other gyms that Xiaogang sent me and took a rough look. That means this is basically a competition between children. ZHE also flipped through it. Including him, there were 32 contestants, 17 of whom were just 16 years old. Their initial Pokémon were still at the normal level, not to mention the second Pokémon. There were also 8 who were a little older, 2 of whom were normal level Pokémon, and the initial Pokémon of another 3 people broke through the elite level. The remaining 3 people and him were all invested trainers, and they were a little over 17 years old. So my opponents are the last 3 people. Looking at the familiar 3 photos above, ZHE also fell into deep thought. Forget it, I'll see when the time comes. Even if I don't win the championship, I still have 2 million. I shook my head and restrained my wild thoughts. Anyway, it's like doing a favor for a friend. 10 days later, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Vermilion City is a city in the Kanto region, located at the southern estuary. It is an international port city, where even luxury cruise ships come. It is mainly divided into 2 areas, the central city and the harbor area. There are many cargo ships and cruise ships coming and going in the harbor area every day, driving the continuous development of the regional economy. The water flow travels between Asagi City and Vermilion Port in the Johto region. 10 sea flame horse ferries sail from Vermilion Port to the 7 islands. The most famous one is the Saint Anu, which tours around the world and only returns to Vermilion Port once a year. Tetsuya came to the Vermilion City port in a dusty manner and saw the luxury cruise ship docked in the distance at a glance. There is no way, among a group of ordinary cruise ships, the Saint Anu is really too huge and gorgeous. The white shell is matched with golden decorations, plus several layers of decks stacked on top of each other, which makes people unable to take their eyes away. As he got closer, the Saint Anus looked even bigger, and Tetsuya took out his ticket for the guard to check. The guard used a machine to scan his ticket and respectfully indicated that Tetsuya could enter. The residents who were watching from the side also looked at Tetsuya with envy because they couldn't get on the Saint Anus. Tetsuya walked towards the ship, and just as he entered the cabin, a waiter came up to him. "Hello, Mr. Tetsuya Tamaki, you are holding a VIP room ticket for our Saint Anus, which is located on the 4th floor of the deck with the best viewing position. Do you need me to take you to know all the facilities of the Saint Anus first? Just a brief introduction will be enough." Tetsuya smiled and said to the waiter, Okay, it's Milner, please follow me. The waiter bowed slightly to show his respect and walked forward with his right hand. The entire deck of the St. Anne is divided into 6 floors, of which the second floor is ordinary rooms and the fourth floor is VIP rooms. The first floor is where we are, and the main content is the venues for various entertainment facilities. From left to right, there are game halls, theaters, bars, libraries, gyms, hot spring baths, chess and card rooms, and all-day buffet restaurants. The outer deck is open to swimming pools and water parks. The third and fifth floors are battle venues and training venues for trainers, but they are only open from 9 AM to 6 PM. The rest of the time is not open for guests' rest and the cleaning of the venue. Please understand. The 6th floor is a semi-open dinner venue, which is only open to guests in VIP rooms like you, and a few guests in ordinary rooms. The time is the second and third nights of the departure of the St. Anne, and someone will notify you at that time. At the same time, each floor has supporting infrastructure. If you have any needs or questions, you can always ask the waiter to solve them. When taking Zay to the room, the waiter briefly introduced the structure of the entire St. Anne according to Zay's request. It can only be said that it is worthy of being a luxury cruise ship, and all the facilities are very complete. When he walked to the door of the room, the waiter bowed and said, "This is your room. You only need to swipe your ID card to enter. It is bound. If you don't have any other needs, I will take my leave first." "Okay, thank you very much. I have nothing to do." Zay took out his ID card from his backpack, swiped the access control, opened the door and walked in. "I wish you a pleasant trip on the St. Anne." The waiter said goodbye and went down to continue his work. Zay walked into the room and raised his eyebrows. What came into view was a transparent floor-to-ceiling window. At this time, facing the endless sea and the beautiful scenery of the sunset outside. It's so comfortable." Zay sighed, threw his backpack on the bed, and lay on the soft sofa. Open the refrigerator next to him, take out a can of drink and open it to drink. Anyway, it is included in the ticket fee and you don't have to spend money yourself. It's still a commemorative edition packaging. Rich people are so abominable. After taking a look, it's 3 times more expensive than the same drink. I can't help but sigh that the life of rich people is so happy that you can't imagine it. As for drinking more expensive red wine, ZHE said that he is just an ordinary person. Drinking expensive drinks is already the limit. Red wine is really not something you can drink. You have to know that in this world, fruits that are specifically for human consumption are very difficult to grow. The price of a bottle of red wine is simply not affordable for ordinary people. No, I can't be so decadent. After paralyzed for nearly 10 minutes, ZHE struggled to stand up. "Let's take a shower first. This electric car has been driving my waist and back all the way. It's better to sell it and change it. The comfort is average." Moving his sore body, ZHE walked towards the bathroom, pushing open the door. Wow, rich people even play in the bathroom like this? Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote. I want everything! Exclamation mark. Chapter 44. Raising an elf and going bankrupt. There was a single hot spring bath at the back of the bathroom, a shower next to it, and a double bathtub outside. None of this was the point. After all, the more upscale resort hotels also had this configuration. The key was the color of the entire bathroom, which was golden yellow, the kind of golden yellow. ZHE also confirmed that it was all gold plated. Although gold in this world is not precious, and is generally not exchanged as an equivalent, it would be a considerable expense if all the rooms were done this way. This kind of gold decoration was really dazzling at first glance. Too dazzling. I took a look and found that the toiletries next to it were all the top brands in the Pokémon world, which was in line with the style here. I took off my clothes and walked into the hot spring bath and sat down slowly. In one word, it was refreshing. The just right warm water took away the fatigue of the body, allowing ZHE to relax completely. I turned on the TV in front of me and started watching the show. So, the power of releasing skills is not only determined by the amount of energy a skill can contain, but also by the amount of energy and proficiency of the Pokémon itself. If a Pokémon only has energy, it will not work. Trainers must. Tetsuya thought wildly while listening to Professor Oak's Popular Science on TV. Unfortunately, none of his 3 Pokémon like water, otherwise he could let them relax. Pidgeot can, but it's too big and inconvenient to wipe. Brachichinton and Ishigaki will probably only be able to enjoy a sand bath. Brachichinton is fine, at most it's a little uncomfortable to take a bath, but Ishigaki would be half dead if it were him. He stretched and sighed. This is really an ideal life. Unfortunately, his money is far from enough to support this ideal. During this period, including the 2 million given by Zyugang in advance, he has earned about 18 million alliance coins. But a lot of money has been spent on Pokémon training. Brachichinton broke through to the elite this month, and the training cost has increased a lot, about 3 million. It can be said that it took only 4 months to train it to the elite level. The shortened time was not only because of its champion qualification, but also because of the effect of spending money. Moreover, ZHE also calculated that, if he wanted to break through to level 40 according to the current method, he would basically have to spend 10 million yuan to lay the foundation, not to mention the progress afterwards. As for Pidgeot, he only spent 1.5 million yuan in the past month, which is a normal amount within the plan. After all, his progress is not as fast as that of the strong chicken. The bulk of the expenditure this month was still on Shiwanzi. It also cost about 3.5 million yuan during the larval stage. The key is that the expenditure in the next 10 days was really unexpected by ZHE. Because of the special nature of Shiwanzi, the cultivation plan given by Zero is to frantically supplement and accumulate energy before evolution to evolve, and at the same time, eat some special rocks to change its physical signs. By absorbing special rocks for a long time, and in large quantities, Shiwanzi's resistance to various attributes and the hardness of the body are further improved. The cost of both is not small. In the past 10 days, ZHE spent about 2 million yuan, and that was because he had the supply channel of Nabijim and a 50% discount. Otherwise, some rare rocks would not be sold to anyone, and even if someone sold them, they would not be so cheap. And as the stone balls grow, the cost of these special rocks will only increase and not decrease. A rough calculation shows that it will cost about 15 million yuan just to evolve, not to mention that it will need to continue to strengthen its strength. Basically, the cost of stone balls is about the same as that of strong chickens. After all, the size after evolution is different. These days, breeding elves is really a job that costs money. ZHE also smiled bitterly, and he was going bankrupt every time he raised a elf. Fortunately, as his own strength continued to increase, making money became relatively easy. But ordinary people don't think that they can quickly improve the strength of elves by simply spending money. It is because ZHE also has a complete breeding plan that he dares to do so. Otherwise, it is very likely that the 10 million yuan invested will be wasted. Therefore, there are many reasons that prevent civilian trainers from becoming stronger and changing their lives. In addition to being poor, there are also the qualifications of the elves, the way to promote, and even the way to train elves. The remaining 8 million in my hand can last for a while. If I win a championship in this competition, it is not a dream to become rich overnight. After all, charcoal with a 10% effect is not a big deal. It is only about 10 million. The key lies in the evolution stone with randomly selected attributes. You should know that some evolution stones with special attributes are very rare and expensive. That is to say, the 3 evolution brothers in Stone Town can take it out as a reward at will. After all, they are rich people who started by digging evolution stones. After a light breath, ZHE also stood up. By the way, I have to find time to cut my hair, or change my hairstyle. How about a wolf tail? After wiping his body, ZHE stood in front of the mirror and admired his body. At the same time, this idea flashed through his mind. After all, he has been busy with tasks or training elves in the past 6 months. The rest of the time is spent studying and watching videos. He has no time to get a haircut, so his hair looks a little messy. Fortunately, he takes a shower and washes his head every morning and evening. Otherwise people who don't know him would think that his Pidgeot lives on his head. After leaving the bathroom, Zay picked up the phone to call for service. Hello, how can I help you? A crisp female voice came from the other end of the phone. Give my 3 Pokémons a massage and clean up, namely Pidgeot, Strong Chicken and Stone Ball. Okay sir, someone will go to your room to pick them up later. The whole process will take about 3 hours. Now is dinner time. You can eat first, and we will remind you through your watch later that the service is over. At that time, you can freely choose the time when we return the Pokeball. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. I wish you a pleasant journey. They hung up the phone very simply. This is also the scope of the VIP room service that the waiter just mentioned. I just took a look and found that they are all specially hired by several high-level breeders at a high price. Although Zay often does it himself, he comes to enjoy it. Why not give it to others occasionally? The main reason is that room service here is not expensive. Beep. Beep woo. With the sound of the ship's whistle, the Saint Anne started slowly. I stretched myself. Now I'm officially on half vacation. I can put aside the training and doing tasks to make money. Knock knock. A male voice sounded along with a knock on the door. Hello sir, you called room service. I put on my clothes, opened the door with 3 shrunken luxury balls, and handed them to the waiter, who came to pick them up. By the way, I asked if I could have a meal in the buffet restaurant on the first floor, and of course the waiter answered in the affirmative. ZHE also walked to the first floor easily, ready to start enjoying the first day's dinner. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for me. I ask for everything. PS. There will be 2 updates today. I will post them together. I have something to do. Chapter 45. The rival appears. TSK. They are really willing to spend money. ZHE thought so, but he did not stop his hand and put the beef and a few lobsters on the plate. Yes, there are ordinary animals living in the Pokémon world, but the number is pitiful. Generally speaking, people eat ingredients synthesized by technology, and the taste and texture are basically the same as natural ones. But the restaurant here clearly stated that they use farmed natural ingredients, not synthetic ones. ZHE felt that the Saint Anno did not need to joke about this, and gourmets could still taste the difference between the two. You know, natural ingredients are not only scarce but also expensive, and farming cannot be done on a large scale, as if the world rules do not allow it. The cost of food alone for one day is estimated to be tens of millions, and the Saint Anno travels around the world all year round. The cost can be imagined. After taking a bite, there is indeed no difference in taste and texture, but it gives people a sense of freedom and freshness. Maybe it is also the taste of money. Slowly savoring the taste of nature, a shadow shrouded the light in front of ZHE. Hello, trainer Tamaki Tetsuya from Nibijim. Looking up, a boy who looked about his age, with long purple hair and wearing maroon clothes, was holding a plate and greeting him. Why is it that every time I meet the characters in the animation in my previous life, it's always like this? Zangwen's destiny is the toilet, so is my destiny a restaurant? Tetsuya complained in his heart, forcing a smile on his face. Hello, trainer AG from Hulanjim. Haha, I thought you didn't recognize me. You don't mind if I sit here, do you? No, not at all. Tetsuya was shouting crazily in his heart, why are they all exactly the same? But in order to maintain his friendly attitude, he pretended to be very happy. Lacey sat down naturally. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Lacey from Vale City in Sinop. I'm currently traveling in Kanto for the first year. This time I'm here to participate in the competition on behalf of the Cerulean Gym. Tetsuya Tamaki, from Tokiwa City in Kanto, also traveling for the first year. This time I'm here to participate in the competition on behalf of the Nabi Gym. Tetsuya ate lobster and answered casually. Lacey did not feel embarrassed and started eating naturally. Speaking of which, we are quite destined to meet. There are only 4 non-heirs who came to participate, and we met. It is quite fate. Tetsuya nodded perfunctorily. He did not know why Lacey suddenly came to him. I guess you have also read the information. Among the 32 people, the only people I recognize as opponents are you, and the other 2. The others are just cannon fodder. Lacey said strange words in a very calm manner. Tetsuya's mind was full of question marks. No, why does Lacey feel like his younger brother? Is he so worthy of a beating? Didn't he remember that this guy was pretty good, or did he remember it wrong? What he didn't know was that before being taught by Kamishiro, Rage's behavior was basically the same as his younger brother Shinji, except that he occasionally showed more respect for others. Reiji didn't care about Tetsuya's thoughts and talked to himself. But I think the data is very uncertain, so I hope you can play a simple game with me before the game 2v2. You don't need Pidgeot, and I won't use Mukahawk. Other than that, sorry, I don't have time. Tetsuya interrupted Reiji mercilessly. What is this guy thinking? Asking his opponent to reveal his strength to him. Does he look so stupid? Huh? Why? Reiji was very surprised. Oh, I see. Let's do this. The prize for the battle is 500,000. Although it's not much, but it's my challenge fee. Reiji was very confident. He had read the investigation report on Tetsuya, and this person had a great desire for money. Although he also valued money, it was far less exaggerated than Tetsuya. Tetsuya was also speechless. Where did the word of his personality that valued money so much come from? It couldn't be Zyadagang. I have to give him some combat experience when I get back. Squinty-eyed man who was far away in Nibe City was feeding his younger brother and sister when he sneezed. Who is scolding me again? Brock's first reaction was Tetsuya. I don't know if they put the report I gave to other gyms about valuing money as life on it. Mumbling, Brock continued his babysitting career. With a sigh, Tetsuya was helpless. First, I really don't have time. My Pokémons are all going for physical therapy and have no time to fight you. Second, I don't think highly of 50W either. I don't need to fight you. Third, there is a 50% chance that we will meet in the semifinals or finals. Why do we have to fight now? It's really hard to understand. Are young people nowadays so stubborn? As trainers, we have to constantly challenge ourselves. The winners are always strong, and the weak do not deserve to be pitied. Reiji said righteously. He held his forehead and Tetsuya decided to take back his evaluation of Reiji and his brother. Although Shinji's personality was not likable at the beginning, he was not so second-rate. As for teaching Lacey a lesson, forget it. He doesn't have the time. While Lacey was talking, ZHE quickly finished his dinner and ran away. When he was about to leave the restaurant, he heard a few quarrels from his seat. You guy walking on the first floor deck. ZHE didn't care about the progress of the restaurant. Not to mention that he was not familiar with Lacey, and he was not happy with him now. Even if he was familiar with him, ZHE didn't have the heart to watch the show. He came here for vacation, not to fight against such a fool, so he might as well take advantage of this time to move around. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for the monthly ticket. I ask for anything. PS. There are only 2 updates today, and I will post them together. I have something to do. I can write about the supporting roles, mainly because I suddenly found it difficult to think of the opponent's name. Doghead. There will be new characters appearing tomorrow. You can guess. Chapter 46 description. The temporary rules for adding more chapters during this period are as follows. 1 10,000 Kidian coins reward plus 1 more chapter 2. Monthly tickets, not sent by the system, plus 1 more chapter for every 100 votes accumulated. Normally, there are 2 chapters on weekdays and 3 chapters on weekends. And there will be irregular chapters when milestones are achieved. In addition, I beg all readers to read and then complain about the unreasonable parts in the previous part. I will try my best to correct them. This is my first time writing, so please be gentle. I will try my best to convince you. I just wrote it for fun. I didn't consider many places and wrote them casually. Watching the animation was a long time ago, and I have almost forgotten it. If you are not satisfied with the price of money, you can think of it as 1000 W Alliance coins is approximately equal to 100 WRMB, but the per capita income in that world is not high, and the value of human necessities is very low, so it can survive, which is equivalent to the whole system being a little deformed because of the elves. Please recommend, please invest, and please vote for the month. Please. Collect. Collect. Please. Follow. Read. Chapter 47 Sea Fishing. Lying on the chair on the deck, feeling the sea breeze, a few long-winged gulls and large-mouthed gulls occasionally flew by in the black night sky. They were the elves of the sailors on the deck, responsible for long-distance vigilance. There were also many of their aquatic elves distributed in the waters around the ship, such as stinging jellyfish and giant winged flying fish. After all, the people on the ship were either rich or wealthy, and if something happened, the reputation of the Saint and us would be ruined. It is said that the ship owner spent a lot of money every year to hire a king who is good at water and several quasi-kings to guard the ship. I don't know if it is true. After all, no one has seen a king take action, but the quasi-kings have seen several. Yawning, ZHE was a little tired. Looking at the time, it was not long after, so he asked the waiter next to him for a fishing rod. He walked to the specially planned area and started sea fishing. As for the problem of no elves around, ZHE also said that if you catch an elf, you can choose to capture it yourself or ask the trainer next to you to drive the elf back to the sea. A sea fishing area is guarded by an elite trainer and 2 ordinary trainers with excellent strength, so there will be basically no problems. After all, it is not a very realistic thing for you to pull up a very powerful Pokémon by yourself. Most of the Pokémon that come up are Magikarp, giant claw crab, horned goldfish and the like. If someone can really pull up a 6.5 meter tall and 235 kilogram Gyarados, they can only say that he admires it. Let alone Gyarados, he feels that it is unrealistic to pull up a Magikarp. With an average weight of nearly 40 kilograms and the power of the Pokémon itself, he can't fight against fighting Pokémon physically, so how can he pull it up? It is precisely for this reason that the ocean is always an unknown place for people. No one knows how many Pokémon survive in the deep sea. Without saying much, Zay threw the fishing rod into the sea. The float rose and fell on the sea surface with the waves. He yawned and waited boredly for the Pokémon to take the bait. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Time passed slowly, and the fishing rod did not move at all. An old man who was also fishing at sea saw that Zay had not caught a Pokémon for such a long time, but still remained patient, so he started chatting with him. Young man, aren't you worried about not catching a Pokémon? It's okay, I'm not here to catch Pokémon, the purpose is to enjoy the fun of fishing. Zay, who was holding the fishing rod in one hand and drinking a drink in the other, replied. Haha, young people with such patience, like you are rare. The old man smiled with great energy and ate a candy by the way. Are you here for vacation, old man? They started chatting, since he was free. Yes, the kids in my family gave me this boat ticket and told me to travel and relax. I think they are too busy and don't want to care about me, an old man. Fortunately, my granddaughter also came on the boat to play with me recently, otherwise it would be a bit boring. The old man looked very serious on the outside, but his words revealed childishness and kindness. I think you are enjoying it quite a lot, old man. He joked as he saw the old man wearing a fancy beach suit. This old man does fitness and fishing every day, so he is very healthy. I saw him chatting with an old lady yesterday. An uncle next to them heard their conversation and interrupted with a smile and began to tease the old man. I didn't expect the old man to be so strong and healthy. Ha. The people fishing around laughed out loud. He is afraid that his wife will scold him if she finds out. Another uncle smiled as if he knew the old man's situation. Go away, don't talk nonsense when you are old. The old man motioned to the uncle to go play. Generally speaking, people who come to fish are older men, and most young people and women are not particularly interested in this kind of boring activity. Therefore, the communication between everyone is relatively subtle and steady. After all, no one knows each other, so they still have to maintain their image. But as soon as they started this joke, the conversation was completely scattered. Especially when they knew that Zaya was not even 17 years old, they relaxed even more. This was about the same age as their own children, maybe even younger, and they all joked about Zaya. He repeatedly said that he couldn't stand it. The ability of middle-aged and elderly men to gossip was even better than that of women. From time to time, people next to him would catch Pokémon to show off, which attracted the laughter and scolding of others. Zaya did not have no games in the next 2 hours. He caught 2 Magikarp with novice qualifications and threw them back into the sea. After all, Pokémon like Magikarp are known as the weakest and most pitiful Pokémon in the world. They have basically no strength and speed. Except for their tenacious vitality, they have no advantages. There may not be a Magikarp that can evolve into Gyarados in the entire river. He also received a lot of good-natured ridicule. Of course, he didn't take it to heart. Which fisherman has not been blessed by the people next to him that it is good luck to fish Magikarp all day? Ding dong, the watch sent a reminder sound, and the care of the 3 little guys was completed. Tetsuya said goodbye to the uncles and grandpas around him. When they asked, he said he would come often in the next week, and then he stood up and left. After he left, everyone was still chatting happily. Suddenly, someone asked, "That young man just now is a good guy. Do you know where he is from?" It seems that he came to represent Nabi Gym at this Kanto Gym gathering. Leofu, you know Wu Neng, why don't you ask him? The man named Leofu who was mentioned replied casually, "It seems that he is a trainer invested by Wu Neng's eldest son. He mentioned it to me before, saying that he has good talent in training. Why, are you interested in finding a son-in-law?" The people next to him joked with the person who asked the question just now. "But go away. Whoever dares to marry my daughter must beat me first." Ha 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 ha. Everyone laughed. Then they all changed the topic tacitly. The old man who asked the question first stood up and shook his head. "Everyone, I'm leaving first. My granddaughter is here to see me." "Okay, you go back and rest first. It's not good to be on the deck at night." Everyone said goodbye. "Okay, I'll come again tomorrow. Don't run away. Let's see who has better skills." The old man walked slowly towards the cabin with his hands behind his back. A woman with waist-length golden hair also walked quickly to support him. "Grandpa looks in a good mood today. I met a nice guy. I would be even happier if you stayed on the boat for a while to play with me," the woman said coquettishly. "Hey Grandpa, didn't you say that Dr. Oak had something to do with me? I'll come to play with you when I'm done." After that, he smiled slyly. "Besides, you're alone on the boat without your grandma to take care of you. Aren't you very happy? Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for the monthly ticket. I want everything!" Exclamation mark. Thanks to you Lan for the 100 starting coins rewarded. Thanks to Monster for the 100 starting coins. PS. Everyone knows who the woman is, but who is the old man? It's quite obvious. Chapter 48 Free Activities. The old man was helpless. You don't learn your lesson every day. You just know how to make fun of your grandfather. The old man and the young man walked upstairs, chatting and laughing. Back to Zay. He naturally didn't know what happened after he left. After taking back the luxury balls of the 3 elves, he returned to his room. Looking at the schedule that Xiao Gang sent to him before, it was 6 days and 7 nights including tonight. The competition was scheduled on the 4th and 5th days of the voyage, that is, before the return journey. It was an elimination system, and the opponents were decided by drawing lots, fighting in pairs, and the top 8 were decided on the 4th day, which means that one person only needs to fight 2 games to finish, and the champion will be decided on the 5th day. To put it simply, you can win the championship by winning 5 games in a row. At the same time, there was a very small dinner on the 6th deck on the 5th night, which was only open to those who participated in the competition. So I can relax as much as I want in the first 3 days. This was the first question that Zay thought of. There was no way. Zay had a hard life in the past 10 years, and he didn't relax even recently. How could he let go of the chance to rest that he had finally gotten? Besides, training and learning also need to be combined with work and rest, otherwise it will only be counterproductive. Sitting lazily on the bed, he released all 3 Pokémon from the Pokéballs. Anyway, the room was big enough for them to rest, and there was no need to keep them in the Pokéballs all the time. Beep chap, Dangoro. The 3 Pokémon shouted happily one after another after they came out. ZHE also smiled and watched them making noises, so you can have a good time in the next 3 days. For training, just keep in shape. It's basically about 1 hour a day. This is simply wonderful. Although Pidgeot and the other 3 are used to training, it doesn't mean they don't want to relax. Hearing their trainer say this, the 3 pets were also quite happy. ZHE also stood up and took out 3 tags, which he had just asked the waiter to get. They can be used to hang on their Pokémon, so that they can move freely, especially Pidgeot. Otherwise, if Pidgeot flies into the air, it may be attacked by the surrounding Pokémon as an attacker. With the tags, this will not happen. Zay took the 3 elves one by one, admonishing them like an old father. Pidgeot, there is a climbing frame on the balcony. You can go there to rest, or you can rest in the room. Don't fly too far during activities, and remember to come back on time for dinner. Strong Chicken and Stoneball, you can rest in the small room prepared for the elves. Remember to bring the tag when you go out. Especially you, Stoneball, don't get lost. Be careful not to fall into the water. The 3 pets nodded frantically to show that they understood, and then they dispersed. Pidgeot flew directly to the tree trunk climbing frame on the balcony to rest, which was more comfortable for it. Strong Chicken took Stoneball into the small room and started playing. There were all kinds of elf toys in it. Zaya lay back and fell asleep directly. Woo, the sound of the ship's whistle slowly sounded, waking up the sleeping 1 person and 3 pets. Zay frowned and squinted his eyes, scratching his messy hair. Opening the curtains, there was a beautiful natural scenery of the sea outside. The endless sea with rippling blue waves makes people feel relaxed and happy, and various birds and elves fly in groups in the sky. Looking into the distance, you can vaguely see the silhouette of the lighthouse. The morning sun shines softly and warmly, which makes people sigh at its beauty. A relaxing day begins. Zay yawns and walks from the bed to the bathroom to start his morning wash. After some grooming, he becomes the refreshing and handsome boy again. After feeding the 3 elves breakfast, they are allowed to move freely. Pidgeot said that he wanted to fly out for a while Ishiwanko chose to stay in the room to rest. Strong Chicken hesitated for a while and said that he wanted to go out with Zaya. Let Pidgeot remember that. After returning at noon, Zaya put on his clothes, put on a pair of sunglasses on his face, and went down to the first deck with Strong Chicken. There are many people who bring elves out like him, but most of them are pet type elves. For example, the Pichu that Zaya caught before, or Eevee, or Cato, which are cute elves that do not have much compatibility. Of course, there were also many who came out with their own combat Pokémon like him, but their size was also smaller. Only a very small number of people came out with giant Pokémon, such as Snorlax. Fortunately, there were not many of them, and the deck of the Saint Anno had been treated to be very hard, so that the deck was not damaged. After taking a breakfast, Zaya did not choose to eat in the restaurant, but took Strong Chicken to the deck outside. Leaning against the guardrail, Zaya put the cup in a fixed position on the side, enjoying the beautiful scenery in front of him, while blowing the sea breeze, and began to eat a sandwich. Drinking a sip of milky milk from time to time, this slow-paced life makes people become extremely lazy. Strong Chicken on the side saw his trainer like this, and imitated him. Unfortunately, although Strong Chicken's height has grown a little, it is still only 1.35 meters. He can't see the sea surface at all. What is exposed on the guardrail is just 3 feathers on his head. Strong Chicken struggled for a while, and found that it was really impossible, so he gave up. Lala's trainer's clothes pointed to the distance and shouted. Chazhe looked in the direction it pointed. It was a simulated beach built specifically for Pokémons, prepared for some Pokémons that cannot go into the water. There were many Pokémons moving around inside. Go ahead, remember to come find me at noon. He waved his hand, indicating that Strong Chicken could arrange himself. Chap. Strong Chicken agreed, and ran over there quickly. ZHE shook his head, finished his breakfast, threw the garbage into the recycling area, and went up to the 3rd floor. His plan this morning was to watch the battle in the battlefield, and see if there were any opponents worth noting. Rather, use the fatal front fangs. Butterfree, dodge upwards and use telekinesis to suppress it. Scyther, give him the last blow. Long-tailed monster, use Iron Tail. As soon as he entered the battlefield, the sound that was originally isolated by good sound insulation materials immediately came into his ears. Various battle commands came, plus the cheers and cheers of the crowd who came to watch the battle like ZHE. It was inevitable that he felt uncomfortable for a while. After a careful look, there are still several Pokémon that look quite strong. The most obvious one is a Scyther. Its green body and sharp arms give it great attack power. It defeated 3 or 4 Pokémon in a row. ZHE also looked away. The trainer of this Scyther should be one of the few gym heirs with elite level Pokémon participating in this competition. He is indeed quite strong. ZHE also began to look for his next target. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for me. I ask for anything. PS. No tickets at 9 PM. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. Observe the opponent? He quickly scanned the faces of several trainers with good strength, but unfortunately, no one on the list appeared. He looked at the time. It was 8:30 in the morning, and most people would choose to train at this time in the training ground. ZHE also found a place to sit down and started to call up the watch interface to watch videos. He decided to spend the mornings of the 3 days here anyway, and it would be fun to watch some videos during the battle. By the way, he would observe whether his future opponent would appear. He would not find an unfamiliar opponent like Reiji and ask the opponent to fight him and expose his strength. Thinking of this, ZHE wanted to complain. A normal person would not do such a thing. In the afternoon, see if Pidgeot is willing to accompany him to fish for Pokémon in the sea and let it hang around. With the personality of the brute, if he had a lot of fun in the morning, he would definitely drag Aishiganko to continue playing in the afternoon. ZHE also knew this very well. Occasionally go to other places to play, such as swimming or something to relax. It's perfect. ZHE didn't realize that his behavior pattern has gradually approached that of middle-aged and elderly people. He stayed for a whole morning, and there was no one worth noting. After closing the video, he was not disappointed. After all, most people came to the Saint Anu to enjoy themselves. Training on it was also a personal privacy. It was closed, and he could not pry into other people's privacy. In this world, rashly exploring other people's training plans and training methods would cause hatred between the two people, which was equivalent to trying to steal other people's family skills in the ancient times. If he hadn't known that it was Xiaogang last time, and he had made his intention clear, and ZHE also had a related plan. Otherwise, if it was someone else, ZHE would probably find an opportunity to kill that person in the wild. Inexplicably coming to ask him how to train elves, what else is it but looking for death? He stretched and stood up, moving his body. His legs were a little numb after sitting for 3 hours. He went to call the strong chicken back and went back to the room together. At this time, Pidgeot was already standing on the balcony. Hey, you're back. Are you having fun flying? Beep. ZHE laughed. It seemed that he had a lot of fun. Birds of prey still need a free sky to fly. Dangoro. Aishimaru also ran out of the small room and greeted the trainer. After that, he was pulled aside by the strong chicken and whispered something. Zaya didn't care about the two of them and went straight to prepare lunch for the 3 pets. He called room service to bring up some bread, beef, lettuce, tomato, potatoes, etc. He planned to make a hamburger set meal in the kitchen of his room today. Speaking of which, it seems that there is no food like hamburgers in this world, or is it just the Kanto region that doesn't have it? Zaya is not sure. After all, most parts of this world are still relatively far apart, with different customs and habits, and he has never been there. But it should be normal to have sandwiches and hamburgers. Of course, many Chinese dishes are definitely not available. This world mainly prefers Japanese and Western cooking methods. So maybe I can have a chance to become a restaurant tycoon in the Pokémon world in the future. Why not call it the food supplier of the elves? Zaya was thinking wildly while making hamburgers. After making 2 simple beef burgers and a takeaway of French fries, Tetsuya sat on a chair on the balcony with a drink that had been refilled in the room's refrigerator early in the morning. Sunbathing, eating a burger, taking a sip of iced drink from time to time, and eating French fries. This is simply the happy life of a fat otaku. Adjusting his sunglasses, Tetsuya saw someone coming out of the next room from the corner of his eye, and he seemed to be inexplicably familiar. Hey, Uncle Chihiru lives next to me. Good afternoon. He turned around and greeted him energetically. Isn't this Tetsuya boy? I really didn't expect it. The middle-aged man named Chihiru was stretching his body and turned his head to see when he heard the voice from the side. It turned out to be the young man from last night. Asakura Chihiru, who was exercising his muscles and bones, replied casually, I didn't expect it to be such a coincidence. This uncle named Asakura Chiharu was the man who asked Tetsuya whose child he was from last night. "Uncle, are you going to fish for elves this afternoon?" Mimoli took a sip of the drink and found that it was gone. She motioned to Liz Hongji to get her another bottle, and Tetsuya asked Chiharu, "Go, I'll go in a while." "Why are you coming?" Looking at the walking strong chicken, Chiksha also flashed a trace of surprise. After all, he is also a senior trainer. Although not as professional as the breeder, it can be seen that this strong chicken is bred exceptionally well and has great strength. This is the intuition of the trainer. He answered Tetsuya's questions without any delay. "Go, uncle will join us later." "Okay, last night was not suitable for my performance. This afternoon, I will show you what it means to be the king of fishing Pokémon." Tetsuya quickly finished his meal and clapped his hands, indicating that Uncle Chiksha was ready. Chiksha, who was standing next to him, also stopped her lunch exercise. The two walked out of the balcony and went to the sea fishing area, talking and laughing. Behind them, Strong Chicken and Aishimaru followed secretly and ran straight to the playground. Tetsuya casually reminded them to remember to come back for dinner. The two silly Pokémons were a little stiff. After hearing that there was no more news, they continued on their way. "Haha, it seems that you and your Pokémon have a good relationship." Uncle Chiharu also found this quite funny. "Of course, they are all my family," Tetsuya answered without hesitation. Chiharu showed a hint of appreciation. "Indeed, Pokémon are our trainer's family, the most trustworthy partners." During the conversation, the two had already walked to the area of last night. There were already quite a few people here. "Hey, the old man is still here." "Hello, Uncle Fu. You old man, the sun will roast you in a while." "Diaz, you vampire, you actually came in the afternoon." Compared to Tetsuya's polite greeting, Uncle Chiharu's way of greeting seemed a bit wild. As expected, Uncle Chiharu was greeted with a round of scolding. "Asakura Chiharu, you bastard, you don't act like an elder. Look at how polite Tetsuya is. Who are you calling a vampire, dead lizard?" "Well, Asakura Chiharu's strongest Pokémon is a lizard king, so he is called a dead lizard." Diaz, who is called a vampire, is also called Leofu. His strongest Pokémon is a Jenga. He is nicknamed a vampire because his combat tactics can easily drain the enemy Pokémon's physical strength without them noticing. The two are also old rivals and old friends. Zaya ignored the conversation between these childish adults and picked up the fishing rod to start fishing for Pokémon. He blew a whistle and the Pidgeot hovering above landed on the side. The alert trainer next to him looked at the label on Pidgeot and was indifferent. This was originally allowed. One hand stroked Pidgeot's feathers and Zaya casually took the fishing rod to fish for Pokémon. Such a handsome style caused the uncle next to him to sigh. "Thinking back to when I was young. Please invest, collect, recommend, and vote for the monthly ticket. I want everything!" Exclamation mark. Chapter 50. Great benefits. Thinking back to the past, you are a bald middle-aged man. What can you say? Besides, it's not the first day we met. Don't we know what you were like before? Asakura Chinatsu sat next to him and mocked him sarcastically. "That's right, you are still reminiscing about the past, when you are so ugly." Another man in the distance laughed wantonly. The uncle who was interrupted and mocked before he finished his words was not annoyed, but laughed disdainfully. A bunch of defeated generals, the barking of defeated dogs. Zaya also found it quite interesting to listen to their bickering. The energetic girls playing in the swimming pool and water park in the distance would occasionally turn their eyes to the outstanding handsome young man in the fishing area and sometimes laugh and play with each other. Swish. Zaya pulled up the hooked fishing rod. It was a 1,000 needle fish. Not bad, at least it was not a carp. He signaled to Pidgeot and it immediately blew the inflated 1,000 needle fish into the sea with one wing. He raised his eyebrows at the old man next to him. "Old man, I have caught the first one so far today. You haven't caught anything since I just came." I caught a lot before you came, brat." The old man, who was still dressed in a young way, replied. Tetsuya smiled happily. "By the way, old man, what's your name? I didn't ask you yesterday." "Yamanashi." The old man, "No, it was Dr. Yamanashi," answered casually. The two fell into silence. Dr. Yamanashi was fishing seriously, and he didn't want to be surpassed by a child. After hearing this name, Tetsuya looked at Dr. Yamanashi's appearance carefully, and fell into deep thought. This name, this appearance, seems to be the elf doctor in the Sinnoh region in the previous life, when he was a little younger. Then he smiled dumbly. What does it matter? Didn't he chat well, before he didn't know before? He threw out the fish hook casually. Yamanashi, is it Dr. Yamanashi who studies evolution? Although Tetsuya didn't care, it would be good to learn something from an authoritative doctor. Yes. Dr. Yamanashi looked at Tetsuya strangely. You know me. It was no wonder that Dr. Yamanashi was surprised. At that time, Dr. Yamanashi was not as famous as he is now. Although he had published many articles on Pokémon evolution, and was recognized as an authority on Pokémon evolution in the industry, only researchers knew the meaning of this name. In the eyes of other trainers who didn't care, they only knew what new research results had come out, and basically didn't know the author. Moreover, at that time, Dr. Yamanashi was still under the Oak Research Institute. Every article was written as coming from the Oak Research Institute. Ordinary trainers would not remember who wrote it. Moreover, young people like Tetsuya pay more attention to the training of Pokémon strength, so it is even more incredible that a researcher can know about it. Yes, I have read you're on the possibility of EV's evolution based on genetic instability, the connection of Pokémon evolutionary forms, the complete state hypothesis of Pokémon evolution, etc. Tetsuya also skillfully reported several papers of Dr. Yamanashi. Dr. Yamanashi nodded. He originally thought that Tetsuya only knew him, but he didn't expect that he was a real talent. You should know that except for the first one, that has attracted a lot of attention, the last two papers, although of great academic significance, are not helpful for increasing strength. Therefore, most people who know him only know the first one, and will not pay attention to the last two. This shows that Zaya loves learning very much. Oh. What do you think after reading it? Dr. Yamanashi certainly won't let this kid go so easily. Although he thinks Zaya is not a person with nothing but appearance, he still needs to test him just in case. I don't have any ideas, but I have a few doubts. Regarding the elves mentioned in the complete state conjecture that will eventually become mythical beasts like Ho-Oh and Lugia, reaching a conceptual perfect state, and inferring that these mythical beasts may not have degenerated forms, I don't quite understand it. If Zaya put fishing aside for the time being, there are not many opportunities to get the knowledge wool of the doctor, so he must seize the time to have a good chat. This is related to the knowledge deduction of 0. Dr. Yamanashi listened to Zaya's questions and nodded with satisfaction. The questions that Zaya asked were all based on his thinking about his articles, and they were very personal. It was obvious that he had put in a lot of effort to study. It was not easy to meet a young man who was interested and studied hard. Dr. Yamanashi would not be stingy with his knowledge and answered Zaya's questions in detail. After all, the doctors in the Pokémon world are true scholars. Most of the doctors officially recognized by the Alliance, in addition to having obvious scientific research results, also need to pass the moral test. Otherwise, the Alliance would not be assured to entrust the task of distributing the 3 starter families to these doctors. Naturally, most of the time they are very happy to teach young people. The old and the young began to discuss research topics. The elders who were fishing for Pokémon next to them were also chatting with each other, and their eyes looking at Zaya were very kind. After all, no one would feel disgusted with a handsome kid who loves to study for no reason. This chat lasted for 2 or 3 hours. During this period, the two people's fishing rods did not respond, and they were immersed in the discussion. After asking some of the questions he had imagined, Zaya took the initiative to stop. After all, he couldn't keep asking questions. He already felt that he had gained a lot. Just now they didn't just discuss the issue of evolution. Dr. Yamanashi has been in the Oki Institute for so many years, and he knows all kinds of questions clearly, which is enough to answer questions. Are there no more questions? Dr. Yamanashi looked at him kindly. He liked this little guy more and more in these few hours of questions and answers. No more for now. I need to digest it. There are too many contents. Tetsuya said honestly. Dr. Yamazato nodded with satisfaction. Although he didn't mind Tetsuya continuing to ask, he was very satisfied with Tetsuya's attitude. The other party knew the limit of his ability very well, and he had a good grasp of all degrees. If he continued to ask, he would stop when there would be no benefit. Not everyone can stop when they are ahead. Greed is the norm. Then I'll leave first today. Sorry, uncles and old man Yamanashi, come back tomorrow, come back tomorrow. Tetsuya stood up and hurriedly wanted to go back to summarize today's gains. When he left, he didn't forget to add a friend with someone using his watch, and everyone agreed happily. Looking at his departing figure, someone sighed. There aren't many young people like this anymore. It seems that Kanto is going to produce another civilian genius. Everyone didn't express their opinions, but they all agreed with this statement. Please invest, please collect, please recommend, please vote for the monthly ticket. Whatever you want! Exclamation mark. The next chapter will enter the competition. Thanks to the 100 starting coins from the Dragon PS, the 9 o'clock in the evening will be postponed to about 11 o'clock in the evening. I came back late after taking the level 6 exam, so we can watch it together tomorrow morning. Before the story of Dr. Yamanashi started, he studied Pokémon in the Kanto region with Dr. Oak, and then returned to Synopsis. Of course, the story doesn't seem to explain that Dr. Yamanashi and Dr. Mustard are related, so this is considered a fan setting, because it seems that there is no specific person of Shirona's grandfather. But it is explained that Shirona has been helping Dr. Yamanashi when she was a child, and Dr. Mustard and Dr. Yamanashi protect the legendary elves together at Lake of Wisdom, which I think is reasonable. Dr. Yamanashi likes sweets, is patient, kind, and looks stern. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.